I will call to order the Town of Essex Selectboard meeting for Monday, July 14th. First item is additions or changes to the agenda. Is there anything from the board? Is there anything from staff?
None from staff.
Okay. With no additions or changes, there's no need to approve the agenda at this point, which brings us to public to be heard. Public to be heard is a time for members of the public to address the select board on consent items or items that are not on the agenda. So if you're in the room, you can raise your physical hand and be called on. If you're online, there is a reactions icon in the lower center of your screen. From there, you'll have the option to raise your hand. I do see a hand in the room, so we'll start in the room.
May I adjust this microphone a little bit?
Yes, yes.
Like right in my eye. There we go. Hi, Ken Signorello. I'm speaking to you tonight as a member of the Economic Development Commission. I'm here to plug our monthly business outreach. This month on Thursday, we will be over at the tree farm, learning about the economic impact the tree farm has on our town. And I wanted to let you guys know and members of the public that might be watching. It's at 8 o'clock. We'll be meeting in front of the barn, meeting with Giles. He's the president of the Tree Farm Management Group. And we'll learn all about it, and you can ask questions. It's a great opportunity. We do that once a month with different businesses, and maybe, I don't think you'll get one from the tree farm, but we met with Glavel and we got a free hat. Thanks.
Just one clarification, Ken, you said 8 o'clock.
In the morning, that's right.
It is AM, okay.
AM, yes, yes, AM. Yeah, right. It's still light at 8 o'clock now, but.
Thanks, Ken. Come on up.
Thank you. My name is Walter Adams. For 50 years, I've lived at 60 Indian Brook Road in our fair city or town. I came today because I was more than a little surprised that no one seemed to show up and talk about the ordinance that you passed at your last meeting concerning charging parks and rec fees and fire fees to both residences and commercial buildings. And I was surprised. My livelihood depends on people who build commercial buildings, and in fact, probably 20%, if you were to look at the plans, 20% of the buildings on Corporate Drive and on Thompson Drive have my name on the plans in some form or other. And I was, first of all, I was a little surprised to see this. Well, I guess, and then when I thought about it, I said, okay, I guess I can understand. The first thing I did was read the ordinance, and I was surprised that there is nothing there in this ordinance. There's nothing about the fee. There's nothing about who's going to pay it. There's nothing. And I said, well, okay, well, maybe there's an addenda that it'll come out that will have the fee schedule on it, but it doesn't say that in the ordinance. So I said, I wonder if they're just going to charge whatever they darn well feel like when somebody shows up. Because it does seem rather odd that you would have a fee schedule and approve it without having any idea whether it's $10 or $10,000. So I guess that surprised me a little bit. So I decided yesterday afternoon that I'd do a little search of the Essex website to see if I could find the study, The Town of Essex Fire Impact Fee by VSD Consulting LLC, which supposedly is the basis for this, or at least the predication for this fee. When I put that in, 337 items came up. I read the first 60. Not a single one of them had anything to do with any part of a fee for fire. So I gave up. I wasn't going to read through 337 items. I did find a couple of very interesting things in there, which I will get to in a few minutes. The first of which was that I found an item that said in December of 2024, the select board doubled all the fees associated with development and new construction. And I thought that was pretty unusual because I don't remember that discussion in the budget building time that you were going to double all of those fees. So I thought that was pretty unusual. So I went and looked, and as I could remember, the fee schedule used to be 3%, and sure enough, or 0.3%, and sure enough, now it's 0.6%. So in fact, it did double. So for a building permit. So I thought that was interesting. And I said to myself, okay, so what happened to the Parks and Rec fee that used to be charged to residences? Because I know somewhere along the way, whether when I was on the planning commission or somewhere before then, there was a fee associated that every new residential facility had to pay that was assigned to Parks and Rec. And I wondered where that one had gone, or if you're going to double dip and charge those fees again in this ordinance as well. Or whether the intent was that there's some of this occurring for residences and some of it occurring for commercial buildings. Because it didn't say that in the document at all. In fact, there was very weak evidence for any reason to charge those fees other than to collect more money for the capital fund. So then it came to my mind that if you're going to build a commercial building, why is it paying for Parks and Rec? There's no people there. There are people who work there, but it's not like a house that might have kids, might have people that live here that will want to use the parks, and therefore they ought to be paying a fee to support them, separate from a use fee, a one-time fee to help pay for the capital side of it. The other thing that came to my mind is if this building is a commercial building and it has a sprinkler or a fire alarm, is it going to pay a smaller fee than if it did not have a fire alarm or a sprinkler? There's nothing in the ordinance that says one way or the other. And perhaps maybe if they do put a sprinkler in, do they get a 1 or 2% reduction in their building permit fee as an incentive for commercial buildings to be sprinkled? Sprinklers are not cheap. They're $5 plus in today's world per square foot. So if Amazon wants to build 120,000 feet, their sprinkler's likely to be above $500,000 to put in. Just the sprinkler.
So if I could respond to some of the questions you've asked so far. At our June 14th meeting, we had a public hearing on the ordinance. The ordinance outlines the fire and rec fees. The rec fees have not changed. The fire ones have, but how it's implemented is the ordinance covers all of the details of when it gets triggered by whom. There is a Schedule A that is in the June 14th packet that outlines what those fees are. For the fire impact fees, it's based on number of bedrooms. It doesn't take into account, and everybody keep me honest here, it doesn't take into account whether there's a sprinkler system. It's just based on number of bedrooms that exist, and it is different based on commercial and residential.
So when I went to the website, downloaded the actual ordinance that was labeled this, and it didn't have an Appendix A, B, C, or any other information associated with it other than the same documentation that I read several months ago, how would I know that there was any of this other stuff?
I
am hurriedly trying to get that information for you.
Okay. But besides that, I find it hard to believe. Well, I think I understand why you're doing it. It has nothing really to do with wanting money. Well, it has everything to do with wanting money. So, and then of course the second item that I would like to bring up is, if a commercial building is of type 1 or 2 construction, is it going to pay a lower fee than if it's a wood frame building? Because obviously its demand, the event it catches on fire, is dramatically different than a wood frame building. And if this is a fire fee, I would assume that you're taking that into account as well. So that's pretty much my reaction to that ordinance. I'm surprised that the other parts of that weren't in the package of stuff that I went and read, because it certainly would have made my life a lot easier to be able to discuss some of that as well. So then I'm going to move myself on to the next item in my list, which is, now that you're collecting 3 times the tax money coming to the capital plan, rather than rolling the budget surpluses into the capital plan, it's my assumption that the surpluses will be returned to the voters 100% as lower taxes. In the past, you've had a surplus every year since Moses crossed the ocean, and I think you have carefully placed it all into the capital fund and not returned very much of it as a percentage to the taxpayers. So I'm just going to raise that one and make sure that that actually has happened. And then I'm going to say that it looks to me like this board has become infatuated with the grandiose plans presented for Upper Main Street, and is doing all it can to find money and grants to prep that site for this completely out of scale building project. In addition, I find that the referenced impact schedule did not find reference to a number of meetings. When I was doing this research, I found a reference to a number of meetings with Rick Bove concerning development on Commonwealth and Carmichael Streets. Now you may say, what's this got to do with that? Well, that used to be what, in my day, when it was asked by the voters to do it, was going to be the town center. And it was to have a little park next to the road, all kinds of things, which nothing has ever happened to that. And I question whether, if the town staff is holding meetings without a proposal. I didn't see a proposal in front of the Development Review Board from Mr. Bove for those spaces. Maybe I missed it. Then it seems odd that you'd be holding meetings with him when there's no development review proposal in place. So I just wondered about that one as well. And then, of course, for those of us who might use those roads, it's more than a little frustrating that I can drive across the road to Carmichael Street, look over and see the post office, but I can't get there. And I can't drive down the gravel road because the town put up a gate or a block that prevents me from using the road. And I question, why doesn't, if the town can find enough money to think about fixing utilities and putting in roads in their new town center, why can't they find enough money to finish that road and finish it in a way that is best for the town, not the best for some developer?
And that road is on private property at this point, right? There is no actual town-owned land on which to extend that road at this point in time?
Confirm that. I think that's the case, but it's typically a cost that we pass on to a developer.
No, I understand. But I'm just saying, it just seems odd that the town wouldn't want to. We've lived without this road being finished, and it seems a shame that Ms. Carmichael's name is devoted to a road that isn't finished and is mostly gravel. Well, a third gravel. Some of it is finished. And that also brings me back to one more item, and that is that I am certainly hoping that you would, if in fact more development occurs on those roads, that you would at least suggest to the Development Review Board that they not approve any more parking lots that look like the parking lot at Mimeo's, Phoenix Books, UPS store. That's a parking lot in name only. It is extraordinarily tiny, and both its parking and circulation are awful. And I would suggest that the parking and circulation surrounding Jules and that building is much the same in my mind. But I don't use that parking lot, so I don't know. So that was my second comment. My third comment had to do with a survey that I filled out a couple of months ago, which came from the town of Essex, asking me about the things that it would like to provide to me in terms of parks and rec and all kinds of things. And the one thing that I noticed was, of all of these important items, the one thing that did not show up there was something which I would call fiscal responsibility. You can have anything you want if you're willing to pay for it. And of course, if you just put out a survey that says, would you like to have X, Y, Z, A, and B? Everybody will say, absolutely, I would love to have all of those things. But they don't worry about having to pay for it. Well, I do, because I think my taxes at the number they're at now is bad enough, and I can see them only getting worse. Way worse, quite frankly. So I think that, if you had said to people, okay, do you want those things if it means a 30% tax increase, would you be okay with that? Well, maybe a few minds would have changed. But you didn't ask that. All you asked was, what of these kinds of things, which one would you like to have? And that, in my mind, is exactly what happened 7 years ago now when the police station got designed. It was designed by committee. You put 100 people in a room, and every single one of them got everything they wanted, and we ended up paying a phenomenal amount of money for a building that is way more building than we needed, is twice too big, and is costing us a fortune, frankly, and will continue to cost us a fortune from now on. And I can see that all of that is coming back again in the process of the new town center, because I see a 6,000 square foot fire station, and maybe if you make a deal with Essex Rescue, another 2,500 square feet for Essex Rescue is 8,000 square feet. And for some strange reason, the consultants decided that you should build 43,000 square feet of fire station. Well, that seems like a tad overkill. And at $600+ a square foot, that is a humongously expensive building that none of us can afford. And with that, I'm done. Thank you very much for listening. And I think I'm going to go back and read the ordinance, and you'll probably see me again in 2 weeks. And I will come back and discuss what I think is going on in the real world again. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Adams, and feel free to reach out directly to me if you have any questions between then and now. If you'd like to have a conversation.
may come in because I have a feeling that the only way I'm going to get the information about Bose is to come in and see the staff. So, but I would that one, and then I will look forward to. Well, I suppose while I'm here, I'll have to find out if this addendum A exists in some form, because it doesn't appear to be on the website. So.
Tracy, can I offer that the ordinance doesn't go into effect until tomorrow? So after that time, when you check the ordinance's website, both the language will be updated and that Schedule A will be shown there.
Yeah. And of course, the other thing that I did do, because it is part of something that I do, is that if you were to look at, I don't want to count Essex Junction because I'm not sure what they're really doing, but if you look at Williston, South Burlington, Milton, Essex, the town of Essex has the highest water and the highest sewer fees of any one of those communities, by far. And I just wanted you to understand that. And my suspicion is, I couldn't, if in fact the way the language reads in the one in South Burlington, in Essex Junction, theirs would be far higher than yours, because they have a fixed fee plus a chunk of money. And if that chunk of money is based on what they say it is, which is per cubic foot, then their rates are like 5 times what yours are, and somehow I don't believe that. And you're also considerably higher than Burlington, so, because I looked at that one too. Thank you very much. And I just don't want you to make it any more difficult for people to want to build a building here. And I do understand that the golden goose is standing at the door if you can get the Development Commission to agree, which is kind of why I assumed you doubled all the fees. So, but there it is. And the rest of us will pay the price while we wait and see what happens. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sue Getty. I know you know me at this point. I live on Basha Drive here in Essex. I will keep it short. So I hate doing this, but here I am. I'm speaking tonight not just as a resident of Essex, but as an immigrant. One who knows what it means to move through this town without fear of being racially profiled, followed, or questioned about my right to be here. My skin is white. Look at me. I mean, colorful, but I'm basically white. That safety is not universal, and I can't sit with that. I've been watching with deep concern the actions of ICE and Border Patrol, not just in California and in Florida, but here in Vermont. Traffic stops, racial profiling, and detentions without warrants. We've seen it in Franklin County, when Nacho and Haiti Perez got taken violently, I would argue. We've seen it in Essex County, and we've seen it here in Chittenden County. This isn't a theory, it is our reality. And unless we do something about it, our silence becomes complicity. I feel like you've heard me say that before. I am here tonight because of the Latina community, especially those with skins that are darker than mine, deserve better. And because we can't leave it to the most vulnerable among us to speak out. You, as the elected officials, represent all of us. But you only hear from those of us who feel safe enough to speak. Our neighbors, friends, co-workers, classmates, members of the Essex community, in every sense of the word, are being targeted, interrogated, and detained, often illegally, based just on how they look, the color of their skin, or the language that they speak. And that is not only unacceptable, it is dangerous. And I think you're all aware of that. You are seeing what is happening all across the country. I am asking you, the Select Board, to take a public, unflinching stance that Essex will not tolerate racial profiling, that Essex will not assist in civil immigration enforcement without judicial warrants, and that the Essex Police Department will intervene during ICE and Border Patrol arrests that occur within our town limits to ensure that agents present a valid judicial warrant before any residents or any person in Essex is detained or removed. I also urge the town of Essex to enact clear binding protections for all personal data collected by any town department, ensuring that none of it is shared with ICE or Border Patrol. That includes police records, housing data, school information, and anything else that could be used to target our neighbors. Essex must not turn a blind eye when members of our community live in fear. Let's not pretend that this threat is going away. Congress just passed a bloated federal spending bill that funnels hundreds of billions of dollars, 170 billion of them to be precise, into ICE and CBP. I'm just going to take a moment here and go off script. That is about 5 billion more yearly than DEA, FBI, and CIA combined, just for perspective. So this is giving them everything they need to escalate their attack on my community, our community. This is not paranoia. The federal government has been clear about its intent. Their goal is to arrest and detain 3,000 immigrants every day. That's an average of 60 families torn apart per state every day. More than 20,000 per state each year. We know this, and we know they are not limiting their search to people who have committed violent crimes. They are casting a huge net and arresting whoever they catch, including naturalized citizens and veterans. This is unconstitutional. And you, as the elected leaders of these towns, have the responsibility to protect your constituents, particularly those among us who are too afraid to speak out. If Essex claims to serve its residents, then it must take responsibility for the people who live here, who work here, and who also visit this town. No matter their status, no matter their language, no matter where they were born, that is your job, and this is your moment. You have the power to make this town safer, not just for some, but for all of us. And I hope that you see that. And this makes me think about the proposed prison that is being applied for by the state here in Essex. And I don't know if you paid attention to what happened at the DRB or the meeting that happened on Thursday. There are people who have been watching closely the people that are being moved in and out of CRCF and the detention center in St. Albans, and they are maybe not happily, but they are cooperating with moving people in and out of the state illegally. So thank you for listening, and I really hope that you can take this seriously.
Sue, I could tell that you are reading. Would you mind sending that to
Absolutely.
at least me, if not the full select board? There were just a lot of points to unpack. And I
Absolutely.
just want to make sure that we all have those.
Absolutely. I will email you those when I get home because the internet here sucks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else for public to be heard?
Hand up.
David Scopin. David, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yes, I wanted to let you know that I support Sue 100%, and I am convinced.
David, can you hold on just 1 second? We want to make sure that we can hear you in the room. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that everybody could hear you so that you didn't have to repeat anything. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to let you know that I support everything that Sue said, and so does my wife, Natalie Braun, and that I'm convinced many of the residents of town of Essex would do likewise. This is something that is time sensitive. So if you are not capable of putting in this into action immediately tonight, I would suggest that within 2 weeks at your next meeting, you do so, because as I said, this is time sensitive. It's for the betterment of all human beings, and she is correct. We're all in this together. So please take that incredibly seriously, and adopt it. It should be a policy for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any other comments for public to be heard? Oh, Gina, go ahead.
I just want to add I sport suit too, and that's it. And I'm a mom to an immigrant as well, and it's scary, and I appreciate her voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Ooh. Sorry, I need to sit back away from, there we go. Okay. Anything else for public to be heard? Okay, I'm gonna try, okay, I can speak again. So seeing no other items for public to be heard, just checking again online, no. We will move on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Make the motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Ethan, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Andy, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. This brings us to our business portion of our agenda. First item, consider approval of resolution in appreciation of Travis Sabataso. For those who may not know, Travis is moving on to a new opportunity after years of service here in Essex, and he will be greatly missed. There is a resolution in our packet, and I would ask our clerk to read that resolution.
Sure, glad to. Resolution in appreciation of Travis Sabataso. Whereas Travis Sabataso was hired as Human Resources Assistant for the Town of Essex on March 27, 2017, and was promoted to Human Resources Director on April 30th, 2018. And whereas Travis will be resigning as HR Director on July 18th, 2025. And whereas Travis served 2 municipalities and more than 100 employees through a period of shared services for the Town of Essex and the Village of Essex Junction. And whereas Travis provided individual support, care, and attention to so many of his colleagues. And whereas Travis served a crucial role during the pandemic when there was significant uncertainty and fear, providing a safe place for employees to turn to for support and guidance. And whereas Travis made countless improvements to the town's operations and safety protocols, and whereas Travis's institutional knowledge, calm, supportive, and trustworthy manner, patience, and willingness to find creative solutions to support town employees, and Microsoft Excel skills will be missed and difficult to replace, now, therefore, be it resolved that on occasion of Travis's departure from the Town of Essex, that the Select Board, on behalf of the staff, residents, and employees of the Town of Essex, hereby extend our most sincere appreciation to Travis Sabataso for more than 8 years of service in making the Town of Essex a safe, welcoming, and supportive organization in which to work. This will be adopted on the 14th day of July 2025 by the Essex Town Manager and Select Board, should we pass such a thing.
Is there any discussion, or would someone would someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution that was just read?
So moved.
Thank you, Ethan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Andy. All those in actually, do we want to take public comment on the resolution at all? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Travis, thank you.
Well done.
We'll miss you, Travis. And us you.
Indeed. Business item 6B, discussion about prioritization of select board work items for fiscal year 26. In our packet is the final list for prioritization of the select board work items. This is separated out into 2 parts, first discussion and is there 3?
I think there's, 2 parts in the agenda, but there's 3 attachments to it.
Yep. Yeah. So the discussion business item is what we're on now around prioritization, since we didn't get to that during our strategic planning session, the prioritization piece. So that is where we are at. Greg, did I miss anything? Anything to add?
No, there's the memo in the packet applies to items 6B and 6C. So first, looking at the prioritization. Second, looking at approval of the work items. Hopefully, you've had a chance to read the memo. I won't go into too much detail on it, but just wanted to draw your attention and emphasize that you had identified about 47 work items, all of which are worthwhile and worthy. There's a few that were not included that are either underway or had been part of previous work plans that are still kind of in the works. So staff tried to identify those a bit in the spreadsheets that were attached. We took a look at it, Karen and I in particular, but working with department heads and other staff as well, and just try to put a lot of thought into what we can actually accomplish, successfully accomplish, and do a good job for you and for the town on. So we narrowed it down to about 20 items, a few others that could be added on there depending on the complexity and exactly what you had in mind. But there is a lot on there. We want to do it well. Also want to emphasize that these special projects often come in addition to our regular work, which really takes up the bulk of our work. I know that doesn't get talked about or noticed as much. We do include the regular work items in the packet that all the departments are doing throughout the year, but reasonably so. The focus is off on what can we do this year above and beyond, what can we do the next year above and beyond. I think we do a pretty good job about doing that, but I don't want to lose sight of all the stuff that has to happen on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, annual basis, whether that's a statutory thing, whether it's just our town plan cycle, our budget cycle, but there is the stuff that we do every day takes up a lot of time. With that in mind, happy to talk about any of the items that we flagged in the memo, in the work plan. We tried to provide comments to each of the items that you had identified and talk a little bit about what might be going on, what might be happening in that area already, where we felt like maybe we should put off a year, obviously based on your input. But we just wanted to have a good conversation and present some additional information to hopefully come up with something that, again, we can do a good job of accomplishing in the coming year and beyond. Anything to add to that, Karen?
Clarifying questions?
I mean, I would definitely like to have an open discussion about the 4 items on here that were highlighted as in the memo from Greg about what they need to fully assess those.
Okay.
Okay.
Andy?
So I'm not sure what order you want how you want to
Yeah.
orchestrate this, because I've got 2 items I had questions about that but I also want to talk about the last 4. So
Okay, so let's talk about the last 4.
We can
Okay.
start from the top. I don't know how you want to go about that. I definitely want to get to those 4 because those
Okay.
are things I need follow up on, I feel.
Ethan?
I was gonna say we should go through both of them, top to bottom, and then it's a quick pass. And
Okay.
if it's a unanimous greatness, then it moves. And if it's a striking point for one or many, then kind of just hit them as we go. Because I know I want to talk about the things that aren't proposed also.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. So starting at item 1, tree farm rec facility, proposed priority level is mandatory.
Sorry, just
Yes.
is there a way to make it cooler in here? I'm sweating really quite a bit over here.
Let me share the screen. Oh, looks like Travis has got
I
it.
mentioned that, and they said, "Oh, it's comfortable."
Like my pen is sweating. Thank you.
Oh, it feels lovely.
And we're gonna be here for a bit. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
So the tree farm recreational facility is proposed at a mandatory priority level. Is everybody good with that, understanding that we have a lease through the end of the year and we have said that we wish to continue, so we need to,
Finish that.
yeah.
Are we taking a straw poll or what are we?
I think it's just a nod,
A nod.
or
Great,
speak
sounds
speak up if you have
Yeah.
something.
No, if anyone
good. We're so
is,
shy here.
yeah, if anyone is in disagreement, please, this is our time. Complete rec needs assessment. It is high. This was also on the consent agenda to approve the
Very done.
contractor for the rec needs assessment, so that is very much moving forward.
Should that be a 1 rather than a 2? Is there really a difference between the 2?
If I can speak to that, the mandatory is stuff that we've kind of are contractually or legally obliged to do. The rec needs assessment, theoretically, you could postpone it. Something could come up. If it gets delayed for some reason, we're not going to find ourselves in trouble with the court or with a client who signed we're signing a contract with this one, but
It's not signed yet.
yeah.
Sure.
Or it's, there's reasonable, you can always amend a contract type of thing. The tree farm lease, for instance, we, after this year, don't have a lease in place. So we kind of have to figure out what that plan is. So that's how I've handled the high priority versus the mandatory. Is the mandatory is just legally or otherwise something that we have to do.
Understood. Thank you.
Number 3, develop a plan for 8090 Upper Main Street based on the community's vision and goals. Present funding options that is currently listed as a high priority. Yes.
I'm just curious, after, for one, we're hearing from many residents over and over again, but why this is the first selected business item on the list. There's other things that are needed to be done in the town for longer that still haven't been completed. And, as we heard at the opening of this, there's things that were pulled off because the day-to-day is already so busy. So we had talked about this at the planning party that we had there. We had dinner. Why, if we're strapped for time right now, why is this a priority without going to the voters and saying, are you willing to leverage up any sort of bonds or, before spending any time on funding mechanisms or any of that, it's a question of the people. Do you want to pursue this or not? It's not continue to throw money at this without voter approval. I think we spent the ARPA money, right? We had the obligation to do so, and we were elected to do so. The spending on this project is no longer the right will of the select board to just go and continue to plan to spend taxpayer money without getting voter approval on it first. So I'd really like to see this as a medium priority, because if our day-to-day is so busy right now, then we need to focus on our priorities and complete some of the things that are below this item. I was really shocked to see it at the top of the list.
And just for clarification, I don't think that the item number indicates priority or.
Mentally, it shows.
Yeah, I
Because it
just
was
wanted
left
to.
over from
I would.
last year, so it was one of the first ones that we talked about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I can just emphasize that I would look at all the items that we proposed as high priority. I would put them all together, medium, all together. There's no ranking within that. I have other thoughts, but I will happily wait and hear any discussion from the select board as to why we recommended it be a high item. But within that high, it's no higher or
I
lower
feel
than the
you.
others.
It's just it's a list, and people look at a list from the top to the bottom. So when people see this, they see that the select board's priority is developing Upper Main Street, and that's not the will of the select board fully, unanimously.
Andy?
There's a suggestion in there, suggested language change as well. So I assume are we talking about the suggested language or the non-bolded text or the bolded text? I'm in support of this line item. I'm happy with this priority. I just want to have clarity as to what words we're going to include.
I think it's both. I think we want to firm up the priority, but we also want to firm up the language. Is that accurate?
So I'm good with the manager's proposed language.
I agree. I like his language better than the one that we had.
Shannon, you're good?
I agree with that as well. I thought that was more in line with kind of our direction we gave staff after the planning party, as Ethan called it, in which we said we wanted to make sure there was, at this point in time, input from the public, which that new language, the bolden part, really seems to focus the task at hand to be upon, not making a plan.
And I do feel like I need to weigh in that there wasn't actually a party. This was a strategic planning
We had-
session that was publicly warned and that we had an open session. Just to clarify that for everybody.
That's fair. Words matter.
Yes. Ethan.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment that, well, I'm with you on that, and I read it that way also in the task. But if you go to the town manager notes, the notes don't reflect the word change in the task. There's no mention of the conversation that we had, and that's where my problem lies with it being at the top of the list and the definition in the manager's notes. Because I don't see anywhere in there about, I see a little bit about more outreach, but we've had plenty of outreach. We've had the planning meetings, we've got the preliminary plan, like the next phase is to make decisions. And that decision isn't for us to make alone, in my opinion. So if there was wording added in there in the other side that said, the protection for all the people who are concerned about not being able to afford their tax bills, then so be it. That would be great. But that's not reflected in there from the language change on the select board's wishes of the task.
So I also want to be clear that this list isn't to have pros and cons and all sides represented within the work item list. It's just, here's the work item list. The task is what the select board is, thumbs up, thumbs down, altering, and assigning the priority level. The town manager notes are just the town manager's thoughts and comments on that. It is not my expectation that we are saying, yes, those town manager notes are absolutely, we are in agreement with them. It's just what is on our priority list and what are we directing the town manager to move forward with in the task column. Shannon.
I think Kendall's first.
Kendall, go ahead.
I was just going to say, he specifically asked for clarity in his comments. Will we supply that at another time? It says it would be helpful to have clarity around what's specifically expected to be accomplished in fiscal year 26, other than a funding plan. And I would say that the funding plan by itself is sufficient to be completed in fiscal year 26.
Yeah.
So I'm just, I'm just trying to understand because he does ask through here a number of questions for clarity from the board.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, during our last session and through other board conversations about this, I apologize. I feel like I'm talking a lot right now, and I don't like doing that. But it was identified that, the next step one is identify the details of the funding, because without identifying the details of what those potential funding mechanisms would be and what the overall cost is, we can't go out and ask for a bond if we don't have a final amount and we don't have potential funding mechanisms and all of the details that go along with that, and the public outreach.
And I'm okay with that if there is a specific dotted line that says we're going to spend this much staff time and this much money to get to those numbers before we go spend another $200,000 to find those numbers. Because I haven't voted on that, right? The board hasn't voted on that. So where is the line? Is my
Andy?
question.
Do we have money in our capital plan to fund the investigation work that we're doing?
We have some. That's part of what we owe you. As far as the timeline and the NBRC grant, I want to say there's about $85,000 in there right now that was assigned from interest revenue. We've not assigned any of the 3-cent or 5-cent capital tax to that point yet.
Okay.
And point of clarification there is a grant that got signed up for that is needing matching funds up to 1.3 million. We did, the select board approved that and signed it. So there is already a need for funds. Shall that be approved by the end of the year and the projects start happening? That's just for the planning.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna make the point that you were making at the end, that the authorization was for the manager to accept the grant,
Right.
but we can't request the notice to proceed and spend any of that money until you approve a funding plan for the match.
So we haven't approved anything yet. Shannon?
We did.
I recognize this is a very important thing, and having heard from members of the public, both sides of the issue, as well as tonight, one very clear side of the issue, I do think this is still a priority for us to progress it. And again, I would just say with the manager's suggested wording change up there in bold, and with him knowing that we expect there to be a very clear take public input into consideration and bring this to a vote, I think it is a high priority, and I would support moving on to the long list ahead of us.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Shannon, that's a good reminder, and I did want to remind the board that our purpose here this evening is to set priorities and potentially update wording, but we have already gone through the list and finalized what's on the list. So I'd rather not rehash specific items and whether they belong there. If we want to talk about the manager's recommendation to pull things off or put something on to take something off. But right now, we're just talking about priority. Yes. Sorry, Andy, you were
Yes, who?
up and down.
I'm not sure who.
No, go ahead.
So I was assuming that prioritization discussion could put something at 0 priority and have it remove it from the list. I am not under the impression that we have finalized any list.
It can be removed, but if we're talking about if we're talking about priority and wanting to remove something from priority, fine, but I don't want to get into rehashing the merits of each and every individual item in detail, because we've already been there, which led us to that list. If it's a matter of priority, awesome.
No, we haven't, because when I wanted to raise an objection about an item, we said we'll talk about that when we talk about priorities. And so I disagree that we ever agreed on what would be on this list. And so there are a couple things that I do want to argue don't need to be there.
I think
Because we
Because of the
deferred
priority?
that discussion. We said we'll make that decision when we talk about priority in our last meeting, and then we never got to it.
I think we're saying the same thing in a different way. If it's about priority for what we're pulling off, but if we're talking about the merits of just the item as opposed to whether it's higher or lower on the list.
In order to justify a lower priority or for removing it from the list, you have to talk about the merits of the item. So I'm not sure
In
how.
comparison to other items that we've already talked about for quite a while.
There were items that were brought up but not discussed. Everything that was handed in was put onto a list, and we didn't discuss everything. I don't agree that we have, and so unfortunately I think we're going to need to have some of those kind of discussions. Some of these, yeah, sure, we should probably not spin our wheels and go round and round about it. And certainly, it's you can overrule me and tell me I'm wrong, but.
So what I'm hearing is that everyone, through our straw poll, that people were nodding on the manager's suggested language for number 3 for 8090 Upper Main. Do I have that correct? Okay. Now we're going to talk about the priority of this item. Do people feel that it's high? Do they feel like it needs to be moved down? Or if someone feels that it's just not a priority and should be moved off the list, let's talk about that. Andy, go ahead.
I'm happy with it being high.
Okay.
I've said my piece. I think it deserves to be high. It's something that's in front of the people and they want an answer, whether it's for or against.
Agreed.
Okay. I feel the same. So high for 8090 Upper Main, which moves us along to number 4, plan for the future of fire and rescue in Essex. We'll note that there is would be a continuation of work items and goals from 24 and 25. So this is a carryover. This is proposed at a high priority.
So this was not in our original list?
Yeah, do you mind if I
Sure.
speak to this, Tracy? Correct. This was not on the list that you identified for fiscal 26. It is something that, a topic that had been identified as a work item for fiscal 24, and in fiscal 25, one of your long-term goals to focus on public safety in Essex. So after you met last month, as staff went through the past work plans, the goals and objectives and the values to sort of help with our recommended priorities and see what had been in the works and what might be missing. This one came up as something that we think should be added to the list, or I think should be added to the list. You've heard a bit about our call response numbers. You've heard about Essex Rescue, which is stable at this point, but is certainly not thriving with tons of staffing. So just as a whole, I think it's worth continuing to make it a pretty high priority. It's recommended to be high priority here. But looking at the future of emergency and rescue services in Essex, we do want to try to find ways to ensure that people are getting the public safety response they expect, whether that's ambulance or fire or others. And just knowing some of the challenges that we've had in the past, it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to take more than a few hours here and there. It's going to require some dedication and some effort and a number of parties to take a look at. So it is one that staff had added in with the recommendation of high priority, but of course we'll turn that over to you for discussion and consideration.
Kendall?
I would just say I support everything that Greg has just said, and I would support it being a high priority.
Seeing Andy nodding, Shannon, Ethan?
Yeah, I just got a comment because I'm gonna comment tonight because I think I have that right. But if we want to put a limit on it, we can, just as long as it's the same for everybody. But what I was gonna say, or when I was finishing earlier, was that, you know, we created this list together as a select board. Okay, it got brought to us tonight with three new additions, all three high. You got the town planning of 80 and Upper 90 Main Street, and then you got two things that are mandatory that we have to do. One of them because we've already committed ourselves to doing a rec needs assessment. There's no other high priority items from the select board. There's zero. There's one. So my question is, are all of these things, whether I agree with them or not, super over the rest of the items that we as a select board came up with? Is that our prioritization? Are we going to go down through and change the things that we felt were important to us 3.5 weeks ago to high priority, or are we just going to roll with the 5 items that the manager presented and his priorities are ours?
We are here
I'm
to
curious about
discuss
that.
prioritization. So if you feel that one is not as high of a priority and another one should be higher priority, that is appropriate for discussion.
Okay. Because I don't feel that some of the things that we've been trying to complete for the past couple of years have seen the attention that they need. And I just wanted to publicly speak that so it's on the record about the list also. But I won't bother you with my long story every comment. I'm just going to make a comment on the items as they come up so it's on the record.
Yep.
Because if I'm in the minority, there's no point in wasting everybody's time.
Ethan, how do you feel about the future fire and rescue in Essex? Do you feel that should be on the list?
I think it should be on the list. I don't see it as high priority.
Okay.
I see it more as a medium item.
What about others?
I'm fine with it being high.
High's good.
Kendall?
I agree. What I said urgently.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if that changed anything. So it sounds like fire and rescue, the board is good with that at high priority. Number 5, make
Can I just ask a
Yes.
question about the process?
Yes.
Is there a certain number of high priorities we can have?
Good question.
Well,
Everything can't be a high priority. Everything
Yeah.
can't be a low priority. If we try to do everything, we do nothing.
right.
I'm just curious, are we taking slots away from other things by putting things out? What is,
Yep.
I'm new to this process. Can we only have 10 high priorities and 20 lows, or what are we looking for at the end of this process?
I mean, I think you're exactly right. If everything is a high priority, you have no priority.
100%.
Because there needs to be some staggering.
Are we going to go
Of those
through,
priorities?
after we've gone through every single one, and then talk about we've overshot or
If-
something, or what is the problem?
I think if we get to one that folks feel want to be moved up in the list, that there should be discussion about whether there needs to be a trade-off. If we move something too high, does that mean something moves from high to medium or low? Just to make sure that we have an somewhat equal distribution and we are giving some sort of clear direction as far as what those priorities actually are, for Greg to carry those through.
But there's not a set. Greg, maybe you can answer this. Is there a set number we're looking
Right
at?
number?
Not really. It is a bit subjective. And it's, I say that, but it's also with the knowledge of having a rough idea of how long it's going to take to do these things and how long it will take to do other things. Karen and I kicked around a little bit the idea of trying to, each employee has basically 1,800 hours to give to the town each year. Rough number. Between vacations and holidays and sick time and other things that happen, it works out to about 1850. I mentioned earlier that our regular work takes up 70 to 95% of that time, depending on the department and the person. So we kicked around the idea of trying to assign numbers to these things. We didn't have time to do that and try to plug it in. Some of it's going to depend on how much priority you want to dedicate to it. The next two items on the list, which yes, were suggestions to be added. Operating budget, capital budget, those are things that you have talked about for a long time. I think we've made improvements in those areas. I think we can continue to make improvements in those areas. There are also two areas where we got to get them done every year, and we get them done, and we bring them to you, and we meet our deadlines, and we always feel like we're kind of getting it done to get it done, as opposed to really spending the time and effort and sitting down and taking some of your suggestions to heart about when do we look at public-private partnerships, so when do we contract out work, trying to devote time to give some of that more analysis and just give a deeper dive and more attention to these areas. If those things end up being a medium or low priority item, it's kind of going to be status quo. We'll get it done. If it's bumped up to medium, high, we're going to be able to spend more time on that, knowing that you're giving us the support to focus on those items. As far as an hours amount or number of high or medium priority items, I don't have a great answer for you at this point. But it does help us with, yep, you support us spending time and effort on this area, that area.
Okay.
And if it gets to be too much, I will raise my hand and say that's a lot of high priority items. Can you please take one off the list?
Thank you.
I would just note that of the list, there's only 6 high priority items, right? The
There's
rest are all medium.
1 mandatory, 5 high, 6 medium, and 8 low,
Yeah, so
unless I miscounted, but that's,
About 25 that got removed.
And
Suggested.
14.
Suggested removals. They're just not on this list that's presented to us tonight as
Yes.
the list.
Next page.
Well, they're 2 separate lists, though.
Yes.
And this is not the same list that we created at our last meeting. Public, just so that it's on the record.
so number 5, make improvements to operating budget process and outcome. As goes to what Greg was just saying around, not just getting the budget done to get the budget done, but making improvements to the process, so on and so forth. This is proposed at a high priority.
I would agree with both of those items. High priority. He's really kind of pulled in what we've been talking about for years, so
And you're
And-
talking about the operating budget and the capital
yes.
budget, okay.
Yes.
Me too. I agree.
Okay. Ethan?
I disagree, and I think that the public-private partnership should be removed in the language, but
I think
that's
we're
all. Am I skipped one? Did I skip one?
No, it's operating budget, including, it's part of, including looking at public-private partnerships and when to contract out work.
And it's in the notes too, section also.
Yep.
I mean, I was impressed that the finance manager, Dan, brought this forth and said he thinks he can do better and improve it and make it better for the town, so I do support this.
It is worth asking, though. I know that we pulled out like regular departmental work. Is this wanting to verify that you feel that this goes over and above regular work? So it's not just the departmental aspect of it.
I'm going to respond, see if I'm understanding the comment properly, question. So the budget process really is, it's the manager's office, it's the finance department, and it is every single department. And it takes months. Your next meeting is going to have a memo that asks you to start thinking about your priorities for fiscal year 27. That's the start of it. Then we relay at the second meeting in August. You try to finalize or identify some goals that you want. We relay that to department heads. Give some direction as the manager's office to those department heads, who then work on their budget, who then bring it to finance and manager's office, who work with HR and all the departments to sit down and really kind of dig into it. We spend a lot of time on it, and I do think we've made quite a bit of improvements in the past few years, often at your direction and your thoughts and your guidance. Some of the stuff that I keep hearing year after year is looking at contracting out work. The public-private partnership is one where we could probably use some more thoughts or details about what you mean and when you mean it, but I wanted to capture that in the work item. So it is regular work. It's regular work for every department, and it's regular work for a number of months. It's regular work, but also still trying to get the day-to-day done and the week-to-week done. So it's we're trying to scramble a lot of times to get more information to you as questions come up, as we're putting these things together, and having more time with this being a higher priority would allow us to focus more on that versus something else. What that something else is wrapped up into this list. It's up to you if you're comfortable with the way it's been done in the past and the amount of time that we put into it and what we get out of it, which again I think is good. There's just room for improvement.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question, Tracy? If
It
it's
does.
every department all the time?
Sort of sorry.
Yep, I'm done.
I was curious sort of whether it's just a matter of course keep an eye on continuous improvement, or whether it's more than that, and it sounds like it's more.
I think it's more when we're asked to look at contracting out work and what's it going to take to contract out mowing or sidewalk work or some of the other things that might get identified or come up. We can reach out and get some quotes and get some numbers and put some rough estimates together and make a recommendation, but it's not really sitting down and spending a few weeks to do an analysis as to where and when and how and why and what the costs and benefits are going to be.
Yeah, that answers my question. Andy?
Another advantage of having something on this list is we get a hopefully quarterly report on how things, on progress made against them. If it's not on the list, there's no obligation to get that kind of feedback. So that's kind of how I look at some of these is what are the things I want to get updates on a regular basis that are important to me. So I'm supportive of having that on still.
That's a good point. Ethan?
I agree with what Andy just said. Unfortunately, the looking into contracting of mowing and other services was removed from the list. It's on the next item when we get there. But there's a very stark difference between contracting work and a public-private partnership. When you have a public-private partnership, you have two, let's call us an entity and an individual or another entity that are going into business together without the transfer of money. They are working in together for the singular asset. That's a partnership. Mm-hmm. So there's a very stark difference between needing to contract out work and looking at contracting work and saying that the town of Essex is going to dive into private-public partnerships. Because the last time that wording was brought up, it was to do with developing 80 and 90 Upper Main Street and playing landlord. So I think that if we're going to put language in there, it needs to be very clear about what the language is for and not to be something that is covered by looking at mowing and other things when that item was added to this list by the select board, but is proposed to be removed from the work plan. I agree that this is something that is, the budget's obviously a high priority, and it's something that should remain on the list, so that way we are updated on its progress. But I'd just be very careful on the town's position of public-private partnerships.
So the public-private partnership was my ad last year, 2 years ago. But the goal wasn't just around 8090 Upper Main. It was around, I think I brought up an example of another municipality who partnered with a private entity or stood up a partnership to work on these items, to have more hands to do the work. But things like providing free Wi-Fi access across the full town, so that folks could have access to Wi-Fi that was at no cost to them. I am totally fine if folks want to remove the words public-private partnership from this item. It's not going to hurt my feelings at all. And it sounds like it's not even really fleshed out. I also think that when to contract work out, there are such things as $0 contracts. That what my vision of public-private partnerships could be covered under zero-cost contracts. So I'm totally fine if that's a source of contention to just take that out.
I would not want to take that out. I agreed with your definition of it, and I thought that's what I actually thought by the staff preparing these documents tonight for this meeting and putting what Ethan mentioned of the lawn mowing and plowing possibly off onto a separate list, was that you were actually including it in this item. And therefore, in my mind, it was, we're condensing the list, prioritizing things, and making it so that, you know, we don't have a 47-point list. We have ideally under 30. And I would hope that, you know, from this discussion that is being recorded, you would take this, should we approve it, with a high priority, and make sure that those things are focused on as the realm of public-private contracts, partnerships. Partnerships, in my mind, is very much a general term. Yes, it does have a legal definition, but it also has a lot of usage that's not so, you know, benefiting both sides.
Ethan.
Just a little clarification from Greg, but those are put onto your work list, not the select board work list, correct? The ones that are proposed to be removed. You had added it, and I believe the contractual mowing was actually to be removed completely. There was no mention to add that to your regular work. Because a lot of these items say to be added to the manager's regular work, which is your own list, not this list, correct?
That was the intention for some of them. I can't remember what we had for mowing. My recollection is that the mowing is more what Shannon said, is that by bringing it really a focus into the budget, it becomes part of that budget focus, and are we being as cost effective and efficient with our dollars as possible. So with the intention there was to really make that part of our bigger budget focus versus one specific item on its own. But let me just try to find what you're referencing.
It says that the staff would recommend removing this item from the work plan, and that they want to spend more time on the budget this year, but this is one of the areas that could be a focus. But I've brought it up for 3 years and it hasn't been looked at once. So I don't understand where I can get this as a priority if it was agreed. I mean, it wasn't, I guess, to Andy's point earlier, it wasn't agreed upon. But
we have made
we have
adjustments.
the ability to agree upon it tonight and re-add it to the list is my point.
Andy.
I think it's included in 5 already. It says when to contract out work. It's already, it's included in there. I think that was my understanding of the intent of taking off redundant items. So.
And that was my understanding as well. If you look at the bigger list where it says move, remove, it would likely be placed on the EPR and DPW work plans. So it's going along with that, you know, the select board, large umbrella, 20,000 foot, high level, like everybody should be looking at when it makes sense to contract. But adding it specifically to EPR and DPW, talk specifically about plowing, about mowing, on those individual ones.
So be it. Just want to make sure the public's got it on the record. That's all.
Well, Ethan, I don't want you to just shut down.
Well, I mean, I'm used to this. This is
No, but I'm not used to this.
4
So
years
I would
making.
I would suggest that we could, you know, I'd like to satisfy everyone here. Like, why don't we just add it in as, clear language that we like
It's-
mowing, plowing as
Been
part
in
of the
there for
contract?
3 years. And
Well, then let's put it
it's
in
never
there
been
as
moved,
physical.
And it's gonna go the same way it's going. It's
It doesn't
going
have to.
okay.
We
So-
have the opportunity to make it not. I mean, I
Would
think
it-
we're all saying it's a priority that we look into these opportunities. If we want specific language mentioning the mowing and the plowing and other usages, or even putting into ink what Tracy just said of, making sure it goes on to these other departments' work plans, let's make sure it does. Like, I don't think we just need to fold this. I think it's a good conversation.
Yeah.
So is this a high priority?
To me.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
I
go-
think everybody gave it a thumbs up.
And we can put some, I don't know if you have specific language you want to add, but let's put
Yeah,
something
it's
in
an item on the remove the list.
When to contract out
At the last
Well, let's just-
meeting.
work
Well,
such as,
work such as.
plowing
the item
and
on
mowing?
the-
yes, we want to add that?
Sure, yes.
Did you get that?
No, but bear with me for a second.
Okay. Item 5, make
Thanks for
improvements
being
to the
here.
operating budget process.
Okay. Make improvements to the operating budget process and outcomes, and what did you want to say?
Including looking at public-private partnerships and when to contract out work such as snow plowing and mowing.
So look.
Do you want to say et cetera? Because it could be other things. Don't want to limit it to that.
Such
Consider work
as,
for them.
yeah. Is that good?
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me get back to my other list.
I would just comment on item 6 that it says this item could encompass the water and sewer capital. Can we make sure that that will encompass the water and sewer capital?
Are you suggesting capital budget process and outcomes including water and sewer capital?
Yeah. Yeah. it
Is
says
everybody-
This item could encompass other possible work items.
So that's in number 8 though. so
Oh, yeah,
Let's take, if we're gonna add it there, take out number 8.
fully identify water sewer needs.
Yeah, see in item 6 where it says, this item could encompass other items identified.
Yeah, number 8, fully identify water and sewer capital needs, including vehicle replacement schedules.
Okay.
Is that, would you prefer to have them in one?
It might make it easier because then they know it's included with the budget work.
To have them in one?
But water and sewer is a different priority. That's the other thing that would change,
Yeah.
is the priority.
If you want to remove 8, or not remove it, but wrap it into 6, I think we get the message that capital planning and budgeting in general is a priority.
Yeah,
High priority.
I would be fine with that.
I'm in support of combining. I'm just was
Yeah.
making sure that we recognize that the priority then changes on the water and sewer capital.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, thank you. So combine it into
Yeah,
one
that's
and
perfect.
keep it as high, which is the capital planning, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
seeing nods all around. Okay. So that means that 8 would be absorbed. Which brings us to the first medium. Number 7, conduct public outreach on drug and overdose issues. Work with the police department in Essex Westford School District to do so. Thoughts, comments, Andy?
So number 20 talks about opioid settlement funds. Is that a distinctly different activity? Is that
In our mind as staff, they are two related but separate items. And these were both identified last year. The first one, conduct public outreach on drug and overdose issues, work with the police department and EWSD to do so. We have the forum planned in September. That's what we see that as happening. So that would be the medium priority item. It's going to happen. Does it rise to the level of some of these other things? Our suggestion is no, but we intend that it wraps up. It's medium in part because after that, we'd like to focus on the item 20 here, determine uses for opioid settlement funds, so that we can better understand what's next. And is it more outreach? Is it more planning? Is it resources? What is it going to be? So it's kind of completing the one, which is the dedicated outreach, and then focusing on the second one, which is how do we use that money, which might bleed in back into more outreach or something else, but we don't know yet.
Okay, and we've already established the fund, with the
Correct.
funds to go into, so we can track it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great, okay, all right, thank you. I'm in support of number 7 as it is and its priority.
Okay, others?
I was just gonna suggest that we add the settlement funds to be medium priority, but I was gonna wait till we got to 20.
I would just note that I do think the two are combinable.
Mhm.
And I expect you're gonna use the settlement funds for a lot of your public outreach and stuff. So, that would be just my suggestion, that they are combinable.
I was in the same vein of, my thinking was having a clear list that's not super lengthy, makes things easier to accomplish and know that you're making progress. I would be in full support of combining these and bumping up to a medium level for both. I did have a question based on your definition from earlier, Greg. Is this a mandatory thing? Do we have things we have to do with the money we received, or is this a, once we receive the money, it's on us?
It's the latter. The most mandatory part of this item, I would say, is that we've committed to being part of this forum in September. The opioid funds, they come in every few months or so. It's part of the settlements nationwide to fight opioids, opioid prevention, opioid awareness. The money is there until we spend it. There are some conditions attached to it. We have to use it for some qualifying expenses around opioids and opioid prevention. But there's no deadline or timeline as to when it has to be spent.
Okay.
But it has to be spent. So, kinda no, yes.
Well, our community needs it, so.
So what I'm hearing is folks are okay with combining 20 and 7 and leaving that at a medium priority?
Well, I'm not so sure anymore. I mean, he recommends moving it to a low priority once the thing is done. So if that's already scheduled and we're already doing that, and that's the only thing you're going to do for the outreach, then you probably could move them, combine them, but have it low priority versus medium.
You know, I also think that this document says, Andy, was your hand up? Sorry.
Nope.
I didn't,
No.
oh, sorry. Saw something out of the corner of my eye. I think it also says something about our priorities for the community, and I think that fighting against this pandemic that's happening, I don't know if that's the right word, but is important to say it's not just something we're getting to, it's something that we're trying to combat and help people in the community. So I think even just people looking at our work plan and seeing where this lies on our list of priorities is important. So I would be pretty against moving it down to a low priority.
I'll keep it medium then. Okay.
Ethan?
I just want to make a comment that for several years we have heard from the public on this matter, and this has remained a low priority in my tenure on the select board. And no, I have yet to see anything other than a dinner once in a while. I think there's one scheduled for this year.
Yeah, there is an event scheduled in September. So going once, going twice, combining 20 with 7, keeping it at a medium priority.
Sure.
Okay. 8,
We dropped.
we dropped. Well, we
Combined.
included.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
9, explore property acquisition for public water access along the Winooski River through use of the Conservation Reserve Fund. That was added August 2024. That is a medium priority on this list. Andy?
This explicitly says that we're going to use conservation fund dollars for that. If there's another way to do it, I mean, the whole argument of the land's already conserved. Winooski Valley Park District may pay for it too, right? So, I'm just concerned about explicitly saying we're going to use conservation funds this way. We have not voted to do that.
Through the potential use of
But
conservation?
I'd be fine with adding potential in there because we have not approved spending that money for that purpose. If we approve this goal, I think we are.
Thoughts?
It's a fair point. I think potential is a fine thing. I think that, I know there's an application in there for use of the conservation fund for this.
Yes.
I was just gonna recommend that this be a low priority because the involvement from town manager himself is fairly low considering other items. This is more community development, planning, conservation trails, Winooski Valley Park District. It's being worked on actively by the Conservation and Trails. It's brought to us by the Conservation and Trails. I see this as something that we want to see completed, but I don't see this as something that is a direction for the town manager to see the completion. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's been a lot of things that have been removed from the list under the assumption that there's departments working on it. So yes, we think it's important, but no, this isn't something that Greg needs to be focused on, but his staff can be. So it can be added to ComDev work plan, can be added to Public Works work plan, can be added to, I'm missing one here. You feel my drift on where I'm headed with that? Just a suggestion.
Thoughts?
I mean, I read this, and the title of the document is, Select Board Work Plan. It doesn't mean necessarily we're telling exactly what the town manager should do. We're saying what we think our priorities are.
The
Yes.
town manager is the only person we direct.
Yeah, but it's up to him to delegate tasks. So I think that I also see this as we've progressed the ball down the court almost to completion on this, and it'd be really nice to actually get it across the finish line, and then bumping it down to a low priority in my mind, kind of loses momentum.
Okay. Save that argument for the next whole slide. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Andy?
Just for Shannon's sake, one of the following agenda items is that we're going to set the goals for the manager, and we often take our work plan and set those as the goal for the manager. And so we will be asking the manager to do these things at the priority that they're on here.
Thank you.
So, given the amount of public discussion about this, and I have to, I guess, say the caveat is that this was originally my idea to have a boat launch, not this particular one, but a boat launch. But given the discussion that we've had, I think it should remain medium priority to move it along.
Okay. We are about halfway through. Would we like to, and there is a hand up in the room on this item, do we want to take a pause for public comment so far, and then come back to the board?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Ken, come on up.
I'm not going to suggest that you change the priority on that particular item, but I just want to make sure you're aware of some facts. There was an application submitted to use conservation funds to purchase that property over 6 months ago. I've heard complaints that where is the opportunities to use the conservation fund? Well, you have one. So how long you let those sit might determine how many more you get in the future. 6 months is a long time. Now, I'll be honest with you, the situation has gotten more complicated. There's a neighboring parcel that I don't want to get into too much, but I just want to point out that, there is a conservation fund. It's designed for this purpose. The land is currently owned by a private entity. I'm not sure they can do very much with it. That is true. That's why the price is so reasonable. But having this card in our hand to play when it comes to the Winooski Valley Park District possibly developing it for us would be a good thing. And would give us some opportunity to control. That's all I want to say about that. Would it be okay if I spoke to item number 14 and I can go and play music with my buddies?
Sure.
Item number 14 is the community gardens. Now, as somebody who was involved intensively with the town plan development this last cycle, I was there personally hearing people say, we want a community garden. And as you can see from the word cloud in the town plan, it is a top priority item for the people of the town. I saw in the work plan that it says that the property at Upper Main is not suitable, I forget the exact wording, not suitable or something along those lines, right in the first sentence. I beg to differ. The plans, all the plans that were presented included a community garden, number one. Number two, hope I'm correct about this, Ethan, you probably know better. It's good agricultural land.
It's prime agricultural soil that has to be bought out for construction, just to be
Thank
clear.
you. Thank you for that. So it's good land in the proximity to housing where people don't have any land to put a garden on. It's right across the street. I think this is a prime location. You had the director of Parks and Rec, and why this is a priority for the select board, I have no idea. It's a Parks and Recreation thing, obviously. You had the director here. I tried to suggest that you add that to their priorities and goals. Didn't seem to go anywhere. So I'd like to suggest that you punt that to Parks and Recreation, make it a top priority for them, no priority for you. The town people want this. There's a parking lot already there. There is one problem, water. And that's not necessarily something that can't be overcome pretty easily. I mean, the Public Works was ready to put in under the road water for us to put in a tree nursery at the tree farm. Not that big of a deal, apparently. So putting a spigot there with a meter. This will be a money generator, I might point out. I was just at West Street for an Act 250 hearing. Lovely community garden, packed with people. I dare say there's a waiting list. So I would like to suggest that you bounce that and move it to Parks and Recreation. It's a top priority item. Your town plan says it. The people have said it. What's the story? You got the land. You already own it. It's good quality land. The proximity to housing that doesn't have land to grow anything on, it's right there. Seems like a no-brainer to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up. So let's see here. Did we finish the property acquisition, public water access, through potential use of conservation reserve fund at a medium?
With the addition of the
Potential use,
I support.
yes? Okay, I'm seeing heads nodding. 10, pursue installation of a crosswalk on Vermont Route 15 at Saybrook Road and the ice cream shop. This is a medium priority, notes that it is expected to complete by the summer of 2025. Ethan?
I just have a question about this one, but how did we sucker out one crosswalk and not two? Because they put in a crosswalk for EDB, has yet to open because there's not proper signage. But why didn't they put this one in where they had the road tore up and it shut down for 6 months?
There's two. There's actually three that we've been approved for. There's the one across from the scoop shop. It's not right there, but it's
Right.
close. There's the one over by EDB.
This is put in. It's put in. There's traffic cones blocking the sidewalk. There's no
Yep.
signage yet.
They both need the signage. Yep. And then the third one is over by Perry Drive. So as you go out, once it becomes Jericho Road. I don't know if that one's been striped yet, but we have approval from V-Trans to do it. So basically all three of these are almost done. They're going to be done by the end of the summer. It'll be hopefully a quick, yep, you've accomplished it. It's still a medium priority because it's, we had it last year, but yeah.
So did they put concrete in the ground and I'm missing it at the ice cream shop, or?
I've seen the stripes. I haven't looked closely enough to see
I'll
the other
have to look,
infrastructure around, but they have
noticed
striped
the
it.
traffic cones, so I'll have to double take on that. But I was happy to see that. I just was thinking in my head when I was reading it last night that they did one. Why didn't they do the other one?
I didn't even notice that on the way here.
Yeah.
Andy?
The sewer project's not done. They're waiting for parts, and they're going to come back and restart again in a month or so, right? So I don't know that it's quite ready. I don't know where the additional construction is, but it's not done.
Okay.
Not done.
This was from our town tour day on the bus, asking Annie what's going on. She said that it's a 2-phase project because there's a supply chain issue with some specific parts. So I don't know how much gets torn back up again, but it's not done.
Okay. So again, just looking.
I'm good with the priority. And,
You're good?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thumbs all around. For number 10. Number 11, study and propose solutions to minimize truck traffic on Sand Hill. This is given a medium priority on this list. Thoughts? Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Kendall, you brought up something in our planning gathering which was not a party. And you talked about how a lot of people brought this up. We keep continually hear about it in public comment. Is this a high enough priority for you?
Yeah. I don't think there's much we can do beyond the high priorities or medium priority stuff right now. And it is in the community development's work plan as a high priority. So as long as it stays there, I'm happy with it.
Great. Then I support.
Thank you.
Okay. I saw thumbs up and nods. Number 12, review, update, and/or create forest management plans for large-scale public properties and begin to implement those plans. This is listed as a medium, Ethan?
I'd like to see this move to a high priority just for the fact that it's finally catching traction for the first time in a long time. Some plans have finally been dug up that hadn't been known of or found for years and years. I think that this is something that is crucial to a lot of people who come to our meetings and talk about climate change and all these other factors. Well, with an aging forest that we currently have and an improper forest management plan, we are, I don't know if anybody was outside a few weeks ago, but there was a lightning bolt that hit the field at Towers Road that left a crater in the ground, and all it's going to take is a lightning bolt to strike at Indian Brook or Matthewtown Forest or Saxon Hill, and with an overgrown, undermanaged forest, you are going to find yourself with a wildfire. And I think that this is something that has been talked about for the entirety of my time on the select board, and I think it's time that it becomes a high priority and gets accomplished.
Thoughts?
That's a different perspective on it. So that's very good. I would support that.
Anyone else like to move it to high?
I see it's high on EPR's list,
If that's sufficient.
medium on ours. I'm okay with keeping it at medium, given the other high priority things we have.
So when it specifies in here that an item on our priority list is medium, but it is actually in one of the departments as a high work item, what does that actually mean?
It means EPR has heard you. We have heard you. It also means that, and Karen and I tried to go through and really identify, is this a department thing? Is this a select board thing? We tried to keep this list to stuff that you're going to have to touch at some point. So you're going to, once those forest management plans are created and ready for review and public consumption, they will come to you for approval. So that's where it gets into your list. I think we're in good shape, but correct me if I'm wrong on all of those, and Ethan made some good points. If I think either high or medium could work, it's probably going to be about the same amount of work for staff, and in this case, it's just going to be an indicator of how important it is to you as a board.
Shannon,
Karen,
did you
share
have
some more?
thoughts?
I was just going to offer, I think the reason it stays high on EPR's work plan is the implementation piece. So I know there's a plan to implement the Saxon Hill plan that's been adopted. There's also work happening at the tree farm. The work for you will be to review the Saxon Hill plan that hopefully will come to you next month, and any others. So there's a lot packed into that task. I think that's why it's high on EPR's and it's medium on yours, because it's a different take on what the action item is.
Okay.
And
So-
EPR also has a staffing structure and organization and capacity to take this on right now. That's a lot of the past work from the past year with EPR, with staff turnover and changes, was getting the right structure in place to be able to do this and manage this.
So it wouldn't really become high for us until those plans are all ready to come to us, at which point it's a high priority for us to approve it, right? More or less.
I can see that. I can also see it's, you make it a high priority. It's a reminder to us and the public that you really care about this. And if it's a question between the canoe launch or small boat launch that PPR is also focused on and similar staff versus this, we'll know that this should take precedence. If that's, I'm just giving examples, if that's what you choose.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm encouraged that this is high on the EPRs, and I think it's fine with medium for us.
Okay. So we had 2 at medium and 2 at high. I like the idea of putting this at high. So I think we're landing it high. 13, review with legal, Conservation and Trails Committee Commission proposed charter. This is listed as a low. Thoughts?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So, I heard you breathe.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quick, but I was just gonna say that, with this one, I'm torn in the middle, but I think that the conversation that we had was, with the Conservation and Trails was that, if they brought us I don't know the right way to say it, but I felt that if they produced a document that could be legally vetted, that we supported it. And I don't see making this a low priority reflecting that same consensus that we gave them. And if it wasn't true that that was the message that we sent, then we should have flat out said that we weren't interested in considering an adoption to proposed charter for Conservation Trails Commission.
So I also think that there's a difference between updating the charter and number 15 is the commission conversation. So I just want to make sure.
13, right? Around 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, but 15.
The League of Conservation and Trails Committee Commission proposed charter.
Yeah, 15 is also responding to and weighing in on committee requests to become commissions and understanding that those two from Conservation and Trails were part of the same conversation. I just want to make sure that we're discussing the actual updated charter and mission, if that makes sense.
So I have a few comments. Are you finished?
Kind of, but one is all and one is one, right? Like 15 is all fire. Sure.
Yeah.
And then
For the requests
so
that have come
13
forward.
is the request that we have present, per se.
Yeah, 13 is reviewing the proposed, like the charter, their mission, their goals. Good.
If I may, yeah, and I thought about whether or not to combine these or not when proposing them to you, and I almost did. I ended up keeping them separate because when I was thinking back on it, the Conservation and Trails Committee came in and they did propose they requested to become a commission, but they also proposed a charter change. It was the Energy Committee has also requested a name change and to become a commission, but I think there was less, if I remember correctly, less detail and less of a proposal as far as a mission change for that one. So they both requested to become commissions. There's a bit more with Conservation and Trails because there's a statutory Conservation Commission. There's not a statutory Energy Commission. Conservation and Trails also proposed some charter changes. I remember at the time saying that we didn't have a whole lot of capacity as staff to look into that and get a legal vetting to figure out, how does that compare to the statutory Conservation Commission versus the current Conservation and Trails Committee, and what implications might that have for their work? I've not had time to look into that and get a legal review, but I did see them as two very similar but separate items, which is why they're separate here.
Shannon.
So I responded to Ethan first. When the committee came before us, and obviously I sat at that table on the other side of this table, we did have a very clear proposal. That we had a couple options. We said we could take this to a vote and do a charter change. You also have the option that the select board can just approve it. And we were saying we'd like to go the path of least resistance first at the time. And the response that I thought was understood was that you were going to follow up with the committee. And obviously, I'm sure the staff has worked on it. You've done some stuff on your plate. I'm not pointing fingers. But there was a very clear, it's not that we need to ask the Trails Committee to actually bring another document to us. You have a document that's, as of the minutes from that meeting, being sent to legal for review far as I understand it.
This delay is entirely on me. I have not.
I'm
had
not.
time
No,
to,
this
to
is
look
not. This
into
is.
it.
I'm not casting.
No.
You know,
No.
me,
But I.
you know,
But I. It.
But I don't
A
think
lot of.
the reason I bring this up is purely I don't think we need to go back to the committee and say we need an actual document when they provided. I've seen countless red lines, different things, of getting that to a point where we actually felt comfortable when I was on the committee to actually bring that to the select board and present what the committee thought was a final document.
Right. And what I have not had time to do, and this is where it's on me. It is on me.
Sure.
I have not had time to go through that document and presentation from the Conservation and Trails Committee to understand it, to make my comments on it, to get my thoughts on it, to send it to the town attorney, to get his opinion, to bring
Sure.
it back to you.
No, it's,
But
it's
I
clear.
do have the product. It
Yeah,
just
no,
does not
absolutely,
progress.
and
Yeah.
that's not gotten lost in the weeds, which is good to hear. What I was going to say coming into this meeting was, I see this bullet point 13, I believe it is, and 15 as very close, and I'm sure there's uniquities for every committee that wants to change the definition, change the mission, things like that. I would think that we could combine these as a select board's priority, in saying that it's important to respond to. It's a very general statement you have here, even put like we've combined other ones previous in this meeting. Combine these two so that we have it as a priority. We make sure it happens. Low is a fine priority. I would like to see it get done, especially if we have pending things with a committee of volunteers that have volunteered their time.
Andy.
I don't agree with Ethan's state, and maybe I misunderstood it, about that if they gave us a document, we would approve it. I think if they gave us a document, we would review it and consider it. I'm not going to approve anything without seeing it. So I don't think we committed to approve anything. I think we'll look at it. I was going to argue when this is another one of those jumping ahead. 15, I thought we had already done. That we did a review of statute and a legal review, and it was determined that there's really, in Vermont, there's no difference between a committee and a commission unless they're statutorily defined. And so my sense is that 15 is complete, or am I missing something there?
I don't think we ever gave a formal response to those requests, but I do agree with the assessment that there's not really a difference between a commission or a committee. But there's still, in my mind, there is still sort of a pending question out there.
Yeah, and as I was reading through it, I also thought that because part of number 15 was request to change names, mission statements, and or charters of volunteer boards. So I was thinking that they were more aligned in one.
So I'm not hearing a lot of dissension on this.
I agree with the number 13 that be on low priority, but I think we've already done 15. And if it all it needs is, I saw the emails, maybe others didn't. And I thought we discussed it in public meeting too, that there's no difference legally between committee and commission.
Same.
So
And the other question that I had was review Conservation and Trails Committee Commission proposed charter, understanding that 15 talks about, committees and their mission statements. Does the board feel that 13 should be review the mission of all of our committees to make sure? I mean, some of them will probably be very quick, but is this bigger than just the proposed conservation and trails? Or maybe that's why they were separated, because we had something specific from conservation and trails? Yes.
I mean, it does start with responding, so we would only be doing it if somebody brought something to us. If nobody brings anything to us, there's nothing to respond to. We're not investigating, we're just responding. And then we're weighing in once with our response, the way I read it. But I'm okay with taking it off there. I just think that the conservation, I think 13 should be moved to medium. and started, because progress has not started.
I thought I saw your.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm fine combining the two if that helps at all. I would ask that it remain a low priority, but I can chip away at it when capacity allows, and if it's a medium priority, I will give it a little bit more attention.
Just to clarify, you mentioned that the Energy Committee also had a pending thing, or was that covered? I was a little lost in that conversation.
They had made a request, and keep me honest, Andy, to, I believe, change their name and become a commission, with the idea that they would have some more authority and power if they were a commission, based on some research that they had done. In my recollection, it was more, generally speaking, commission versus committee, whereas by statute, staff looked into it quite a bit. We got opinions from VLCT and others about statutorily in Vermont, there's no difference between a commission or a committee, unless there's a defined conservation commission. Statute doesn't give any more authority to a commission than it does to a committee. We've responded to that with the Energy Committee. At least I have. I can't remember if how much the Select Board has responded, how much was conversation, but from staff's perspective, it was kind of it's not going to make a difference. There's other issues that they want to address that aren't going to be wrapped up with a name change.
Just to follow up, did they come to a meeting and present that they wanted it changed, or was it more of a email correspondence?
They came. I can't remember if it was public to be heard or for actual discussion. I don't remember if anyone else remembers.
They were at a meeting. I don't remember which part of the agenda it was at. Ethan?
Yeah, the way I remember it was that the committee commission argument was submissed to the fact that they wanted energy coordinator, and then that was buffed down the line from the select board, and there's been no response from the select board to the energy energy committee on the energy coordinator, which is a full-time position.
Yeah, that's a full staff.
So, but that was where the conversation shifted from committee to commission to energy coordinator.
I think there's a hand online. Is Sharon?
Sharon is on.
Hello, are you acknowledging me?
Is the board okay with public comment, or?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll keep it very short.
The way,
Andy, Sharon, hold on. Andy, go ahead.
the way 15 is worded, though, it specifically talks about committee requests to become commissions. That's what the goal says. We're not approving the town manager comments, right? We're approving the goal.
Right.
And so, again, sorry, third time I'm saying this, we've done this.
Okay.
To the conversation that we were having, the select board has not responded to the energy committee on the question that was just at hand was, how did this come about? It wasn't about what this said. It was, how did this come about with the energy committee? And then there was a trial of remembrance. So this wasn't a debate about adding this into 15 and recollecting what the words say. This was a debate about, maybe my microphone's not working or I'm not being heard tonight, but I'm being very clear with my words.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because I keep getting told that I'm saying things that I'm not saying.
So are you advocating for keeping 15?
I would keep it on there, but it doesn't make a difference to me as long as 13 stays. It's the only active, other than the non-respondents from the select board about the coordinator to Will Dodge. I'm sure he'd be happy to speak about that at any time.
Does any select board member have opposition to keeping them both on the list?
Andy clearly does, which I respect. If at the most, I would say we're trying to get this list boiled down to a attainable thing. I think there's a lot of similarities between the two, and almost as a compromise, I think combining them would be the best path forward. But I think I agree with Ethan as well. 13 is important, 15th less so in my mind. But if it needs to be on there, I think it's good to put a comma and add a clause in there.
I see them combined.
Okay. Combined, but keep the same content. Both of them stay in one item, is what I'm hearing. Andy?
Does it make sense? I mean, wording wise, does it make sense? I'm gonna stop. So, no, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. You just combine them, it's fine. But the question then I'll ask later is if we're combining those two items and we don't have the words in front of us as to what they're gonna say, can we approve them tonight?
Yeah. I don't see it where we can improve the plan tonight. Unfortunately.
Unless you want to go through the words, because we've done that on a couple of the others, but we've said, okay, this is,
Yeah.
if we add these words in here, we can combine.
Well, I mean, if we're just saying purely can combine them, my interpretation of that would be review with legal conservation and trails commission proposed charter and respond to and weighing in on committee requests to become commissions. So both of them would still remain. It would just be one line item instead of two.
I think that makes sense.
Are you comfortable?
I'm only one vote, so.
Are you comfortable with that to the point where that's clear?
Yeah,
enough
I would not
to-
withhold or hold up a vote because of that, because if we're not, as long as staff's okay with those words.
Okay, Kendall, you expressed
Yeah, no,
concern
I'm
about.
fine with that.
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just took the language from 15 and added it to 13. Good.
Yep. All right. I do note that we had a hand up online, so if there's no objection from the board, I will move to Sharon. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'll make this quick. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's my understanding for the Conservation Committee in particular that there is a statutory difference between commission and committee. It doesn't make them any more than advisory, but they can apply for grants without asking you for permission and have their own conservation fund, which means that they have a better chance of getting grant. Because often, I had experience when I was chair, sometimes you're waiting for 2 months to get an ear of the select board and you lose the grant. And it saves staff money and also the select board time and gets the town money that maybe we wouldn't get for buying land or whatever. So that's just a thought.
Yep. And if I'm remembering correctly, good memory there. The difference was that the conservation and trails came with a predefined definition of what their commission would be, but that authority was not granted by the statutory definition of a conservation commission. So that's where the legal interpretation would come in, is do we even have the authority to grant more authority to a commission than is defined in statute?
I think statute does define. Statute makes them the same because they're advisory, so it doesn't give them more power. Like they can't tell the planning commission, DRB, do this. But I do think that they, unlike a committee, have the ability to apply for grants without permission from the select board.
Yep, that's one of the items we'll need to look into, is the differences between those two. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
14, explore creation of community gardens. We heard from someone this evening to take it off the list. Ethan?
All right, here's my pitch on this one. So this was added to the list. I think it was only 2 years ago. This will be the third year, but this was added with farmers market because I brought it to the attention in the town plan. They were of the survey of all the things that people wish to see in the town. The words get bigger in the they have a word.
Yeah, jumble.
I forget what it's called. Word jumble.
cloud.
And I am reading through here, and there's talks about a lack of land and all these things, and all that pops into my head is how quickly I think of where they used to play the volleyball on Towers Road, on Chapin Road. There's town land there that's plenty open, hardly used, prime agricultural soils. It's in the 100-year floodplain, but it's never flooded there. So I would just, and then as I read through, it talks about staff recommends keeping this a medium priority item. So I'm really shocked to see it as a low priority.
Medium priority for EPR.
It doesn't say that in a sentence.
Just this item is on the EPR work plan as medium level priority.
So why does it say staff recommends keeping this as a medium priority item in the lower, lower of the paragraph?
I'm sorry. I believe that was for EPR, right?
Yes.
So it should have been keeping a medium priority item for
'Cause
EPR.
I think it should be a high priority item. I think it's very easy to achieve this. There's plenty of people who are willing to sponsor this. This could be zero cost to the town. The most the town would have to do is a little bit of advertising and some investigation into liability insurance, which we already have on all of our parks anyway. But I think this is high priority, and I think it's time that we allow people to access agriculture before we destroy any more agricultural land.
So just for clarification, are you asking for it to
For high
be
priority.
a high priority on the select board list or a high priority on the EPR work plan?
On the select board list. I'd like to see the high priority on EPR and Public Works as well, but that's not for me to decide. My objective is to convince the select board to make it a high priority, in which case we direct the manager that's a high priority, and what he does from there is his responsibility.
Thoughts? Andy?
I'm sorry, I don't.
I think we were at the same
I'd-
time.
I'd-
Buzzers came in the same time. Go for it. Go after you.
This was looked at before. It was you need parking, you need access, you need parking, you need water, you need accessibility, which means elevated gardening spaces, and it's not inexpensive. We haven't budgeted for it. I struggle with making it a high priority if we don't have the budget to support it, because our intent is to have this happen in FY26, and I think if we want to make it a high priority, we need to have previously budgeted funds to pay for it. And so this would, the cost of it would have to come from somewhere.
Shannon?
It's really good points. At the same point, I feel that the wording here says explore creation of a community garden. And in my mind, that would be we spend 26 exploring it, getting plans, figure out funding, possibly including in budgets for the future, and then in a future year, the goal could be build, create, open, a different verb to actually take that one step further. But I've spent a lot of time recently, not on the flight today, but reading through this town plan, and we've heard it in multiple public comments, as well as going to the farmers market. That's been a great success, and I really give the former select board as well as the staff, a lot of props for that great community event we created. I think this could be another similar thing in the same vein that could really help our community. I agree with Ethan that this should be raised up from a low priority. I would be fine with a medium priority to match that of the EPR plan, but I don't think it's a low priority, hearing from the community as well as what it could do for our community. I think that it really could. There's obviously been some work on it. This is probably of all the things on this list, this might have the largest text from the manager's notes, so has been looked at. It's obviously in his mind. I'd be curious to respond to a lot of the details in there, but that's not the focus of this event here. But I think the goal, as it's worded, those 5 words, explore creation of community gardens, makes at least a medium priority.
Kendall, thoughts?
I support what Ken said originally. I do think it should be a priority. I am blown away by what EPR did with the farmers market, how quick they organized that, how smoothly it's working. It's obviously a huge feather in their cap, very capable. I think they could do the same thing with exploring the creation of the community gardens. And I would suggest that in order to provide the capacity for that they would put off updating the EPR scholarship fund policies and application procedures. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. So you said higher priority. Do you have a
I think medium is
preference
probably
of
fine.
where?
But I'll support whatever the majority months.
Ethan?
I just wanted to add in there before it's brought up, but the forest management plans, on the side of that from Essex Parks and Rec, the town is to contract with the forester to do the actual legwork. It's EPR to be there to support. So I understand that we've also pushed for that to be a high priority. Understanding the complexities that puts on the town is, maybe I'm too bold for saying this, but it is not something that's going to be overwhelming for them to investigate both, especially with town-owned land. And all we have to do is explore. If we reach out there, we put a post anywhere. Anybody willing to donate $50,000 to build community gardens? Because pretty quickly it's going to be taken away from the town. It's going to be community gardens on private land, and the town's going to miss the ship.
So we did have 2 for medium, 1 for high. Andy, I think you were still at low for this one.
I'm fine with medium because it won't change what we do.
I'm also fine with medium. So looks like that one will go to medium. 15, responding to and weighing in on committee requests to, oh, we already did that one. Apologies. 16, investigate increase of non-property tax revenue, such as licensing fees allowed by the charter, impact fees. Yeah, that is currently at a low priority.
If I can just speak to that
Sure.
a little bit. Part of the reason it's low is because I think we have done a lot of this. This has been on the list for a year or two. I think we have done a lot as far as the impact fees for fire, the rec needs assessment impact fees will hopefully be updated with the needs assessment. So we have taken some steps. So we've increased dog licenses in the past year. Local option tax is mentioned elsewhere, but part of the reason we're looking at this as low is we think we've done some of these things. If you have anything specific in mind, I'm happy to hear some suggestions to consider it. But this was sort of more of a, we'll always keep it in mind, but unless there's a specific ask or area you want us to focus, giving some credit to the work that's been done in the past.
Thoughts?
I guess I'll jump in. I honestly thought that number 21 was what would be included in this. So I would, if we can skip ahead to talk about 21, I could see that, we could strike 16 and focus on 21 as a specific thing. But I agree that, in reading through what, Greg just mentioned, that the ordinance fees and things like that, there's, in my mind, obviously I haven't just joined the board. I don't know what was meant by this when it was originally proposed, but I see that when we're talking about non-property tax revenues or sources, a specific thing is the lot tax.
Yeah, and I think when I read through it, I look at 16 as like the umbrella, but that local option tax would be non-property tax revenue, sure. Right? So I would hate to focus only on one aspect of it, understanding that there are multiple fees that we can charge based on our charter. We're not doing all of them. So there are other options that we could explore as well in order to do that. So my recommendation, for what it's worth, would be to just keep it more broad instead of just focusing on the local option tax. But the board is welcome to do whatever they would like. Ethan?
I'd like to see them both removed as a 0. But that's just me. I heard Walt's words, and I hear them from many people. It's time the town starts focusing on what they can do with what they already have and not what they can take from you to do more.
Other thoughts on this one? Kendall?
I would just say that I think that the local option tax should remain as its own goal. Where Essex is missing the boat on some revenue there. You don't have to implement the entire option tax on everything. You could do it on like just rooms, which folks, local folks aren't staying at the end of Essex generally. And they just upped the percentage from the state that you would get for the local. So I would just ask to keep a separate work item for the local option tax.
Ethan?
I was just gonna say that this was shot down once before. So are we gonna bring it to a vote, or is that the intentions here? Or are we gonna, or is this to explore, or is this to bring on the ballot for spring?
It's look at, there's no timeline
Because we looked at
associated with it.
before.
It was looked at, what was that, 2016?
Yeah,
A
I
little
could-
more recent. I think
I-
it was more
Quite a while ago.
2021.
I'd say I voted on it.
Was it?
No, there was no.
Oh, there was a.
No,
there was no-
There was a.
There was never a public vote.
We had a survey that we went out to the public. We never had a. I think the only public vote was 2007, 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, is
Okay.
the public vote. I know
That's
we
the
just,
public
we've
vote.
discussed it as, not all of us, but we've discussed it as a board. We decided not to pursue it at that time because there were outstanding questions, but if we're looking at it, it would allow, for answering of those outstanding questions.
Yeah, but I think that the my understanding of this is that everybody understands what a local options tax is now. There's plenty of communities around us. I think that if the before we go and direct staff to put a bunch of time on this, I think that you bring it to the people and ask them if they want a local options tax. I don't think you waste staff time to divulge this big plan and then put it on the ballot and find out that the answer is still no. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
If I may, it does make sense. I will say that when we did the survey a few years ago, it was probably lukewarm at best as far as the support for local options tax, but a lot of the comments there were, well, tell us how you want to use it, and then we can have a more informed opinion as to whether or not we want to support it or not.
Right, that's my point.
So I hear you, but I do think if you want to pursue it, we have to get some more information to figure out if we'd want to do it, how to do it, which, to Kendall's point, which one of the local options taxes. So, in my opinion, if you want to pursue it, there is some legwork before it goes to a vote.
Because I think legally, if the community votes on it, it has to be stated what those funds would specifically go to.
I don't remember that level of detail.
I may be wrong. I will totally own that, but that's popping into my brain.
I think that might just be a best practice to be able to tell where it's going. Because any select board can decide where unless it's stipulated in the question.
Right.
To support blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I'm in favor of combining the two and just putting local option taxes and other non-property tax revenue to look into. Or leaving them the same. It doesn't make a difference really if they're separate.
And
The same priority.
the low priority for you? Okay. Ethan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean that's
said-
you already heard my thought.
You wanted to
You
strike
said
them
remove them?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't know if anything had
No,
changed, so I
I'm
wanted to
just-
check in.
My only thing that I'm thinking in my head right now is that I would just be it'll be fine because by the time we get talking about it and go to do anything, we're gonna warn a public hearing and you're gonna have your answer right then. So
Yeah, I don't even think it needs to go to that. Put a survey out. It's gonna be simple as that. So
it's been surveyed
So
recently.
Kendall, you're good with?
I just things are different than they were 20 years ago. So I think it should definitely be one of those things that Essex looks at.
Agreed, and I'm fine with combining them with the specific call out for looking at the local option tax.
So that
And the
works.
options
That's a good
available.
compromise.
Okay.
So combine 16 and 21 and priority level.
So impact fees, comma, local option tax, comma, et cetera. Based on what I'm hearing. Are you good for me to?
I'm curious about priority level for that one.
agree.
It was low.
That's what the consensus is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thank
So
you.
no change there. Update liquor license approval process to clarify conditions of approval denial. We had talked about the need for that just to have some defensibility. and make it more transparent for applicants' cases in which approval, denial, what that level is in order to meet or be denied. This is currently at a low priority. I'm seeing nods, thumb up.
Yeah, I'm fine
Okay.
with this, sorry.
Ethan, what are your thoughts?
I think that this should be changed to medium priority, but I would also think that the mission needs a little bit of wording work because I don't think that this is something directly related to it is and it isn't, but to the liquor application process, I think this is more of an ownership of doing business in Essex, and if it's related to building ownership and business ownership, or if it's a business ownership in a rental agreement. I think that those are two very separate things, and I think that this is a larger topic that held up a lot of meetings. That also reverts to I don't know what's the right word for it, failed tax payments or late tax payments. Delinquent. Sorry, thank you.
Nope.
And I think that that this isn't strictly about the approval process. I think this is about the requirements to achieve approval.
Yes.
And I think that this should be looked at in a manner that's wrapped in with delinquent taxes and the ability to live, work, and play in Essex.
Based on what you're saying, I'm hearing that you might want to remove the parentheses to have it read fully, update liquor license approval process to clarify conditions and approval, or do you want to see like create a liquor license approval policy?
That's what I'm leaning towards.
Okay.
Not that's because our focus isn't to, if you heard me, but the yes or no. It's this is the way we do it.
Yep.
And it either meets the requirements or it doesn't. And I think that we need to, as a board, come up with that criteria and put it on paper. And quite frankly, I don't see that taking longer than an introductional meeting and then a discussion, vetting, and warrant a public hearing for approval.
Andy?
I disagree. There's going to be a huge amount of statutory study that needs to happen to figure out what we can and cannot legally do. We tried to rescind somebody's liquor license several years ago, and the state pretty much said, no, you have no jurisdiction over this at all. It's totally the state's jurisdiction. All we are is a rubber stamp, and the question is whether or not we give a rubber stamp, but we have to satisfy statute. We just need, if we put together a policy, we're going to need to vet it very carefully legally. It's not a simple thing.
The select board's vetting legal documents now, or is that still up to the attorney to do? Because it would still be two meetings for the select board.
It would go to the attorney.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shannon, Kendall?
Go ahead, Kendall. Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think it's a good low priority thing.
Yeah, I'm not objecting to the item.
I just think I'm fine with moving on for tonight. I think Ethan's want to get more a harder language is a good point, and a clear policy. It was kind of why I brought it up. I think I suggested this one a couple weeks ago. Maybe it's already on there. I don't know. But it's something that, as a new board member, I've had difficulty getting into the way things are done and understanding it. And I've raised some, points as to how it could be improved, and I'd like to see those improved upon.
Kendall, thoughts?
Yeah, that same. Needs an update.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is the language update liquor license approval, or create liquor license approval policy to clarify conditions of approval denial at a low priority.
Yeah.
And I am seeing nods. Good with that one?
If you just want to read up there and make sure I have what you said.
Create. So I don't think we currently
Right.
have a policy.
Yep.
Liquor license approval policy to clarify conditions of approval / denial. Revise fund balance, assignment process, and fund balance policy. This is currently listed at a low priority. I think we've had a lot of discussion on this. Let's see here, manager's office, policy updates is high priority, which would include this. Greg, did you have?
Yeah, even though it's listed as a low priority on your list, we are pretty close to having it done. Karen has actually drafted some language that I just need to take a closer look at, but we're pretty close to bringing it back to you. It's kind of low priority because we have something in place, we have a system, we have a policy. Could it be better? Perhaps, but it's we can operate regardless of changes. But we are pretty close to being able to bring you something to consider.
Okay.
Keep where it is.
What's that?
Keep it where it is. I think it's fine.
Keep it where it is? Okay. Good?
I think our fund balance policy is fine. We don't need this line item, but I won't stand in the way of anything.
Okay. Ethan?
I was gonna say the same thing, but I was gonna say it in another manner, that it should be removed because by the time we get to working on this, we're gonna be back to year start to reapprove all of our policies as we do every year. So it'll fall under that, and if work continues on it, great. But it's not something that is its own special thing. It's something that we failed to approve this year for our normal reorganizational, and we've yet to complete it. And if it doesn't get completed, it's on the agenda for next year's reorganizational.
Okay.
So I'd like to see it removed.
Andy?
I'm not gonna say.
Say it.
The reorganizational meeting doesn't require us to review all of our policies. We have about 80 of them. And it's, we specifically added this one in. It's our operational ones. It's the ones that tell us how we do business, not, or how we conduct meetings, and the ethics and those kind of things. So that this isn't traditionally has not been one that's been reviewed during our organizational meeting.
Kendall, thoughts?
I think we're close to completing it.
I'm good with it staying at a low priority.
Yeah.
Ethan?
Do we have a list of the things that we have to look at every year? Is it all 80? Because I think if that's true what he's saying, then we should have a clear list and priority for us for next year to achieve a list of policies that we review. And if there's none, then maybe we shouldn't look at any of them.
Yeah, we did have, it was on our work plan last year. I believe it was moved to like a regular
Right.
work
Correct.
to review policies at the reorganizational. I don't believe it specifies which policies, but
Right.
historically we have focused on the ones that are more operations of the select board. But this past year we did expand it to include other items,
Right.
just for general awareness. And, you know, if something is sitting out there like Andy's big book of policies, and we don't know about it, like, awareness is key that something actually exists. Can't change it if you don't know it's out there.
Tracy, can I offer that there were also changes proposed by staff to come into line with statute for the fund balance policy? So it was about the timing, you have to be in arrears for a year. There was some procedural stuff Dan wanted to get in there that
Right.
sparked this discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 3 who say keep it at low, so it's like that'll come back to us. 19, tree nursery partnership with Center for Technology Essex. This is on as a low, medium on ComDev work plan.
I'm glad to hear it's a medium on the ComDev. I feel that the Conservation and Trails Committee has been working on this for 2 years now, I believe. They've done MOUs, redrafts, and things like that, and the timeline has been pushed back for this, quite honestly, creating a great resource for the town, and something that could save us money in the long run. I respect their work. I think that they're very close. In my understanding, Greg, you have a lot more information. You continue conversations with them, but I believe that this could be accomplished this fall, if not sooner, and could really be, a nice feather in our cap. So I would, quite honestly, push this to a medium to match the ComDevs.
Other thoughts? Ethan? Ditto. Other thoughts? Andy Kendall.
I'd leave it low, but it's not gonna change what we do to move it to medium. It's publicity.
Yeah, I mean, if it is slated to be completed in the near future, I assume that means this year, so low is fine with me.
So I'm hearing 3, yes, medium. Determine use for opioid settlement funds.
We combine that.
We did.
We're on 22.
I'm sorry?
We're on 22, I believe.
Thank you. Green Mountain Transit routes. This is TBD. It's suggested to come off. To Greg's point about things that come up over the course of the year, if there are changes, it'll just follow the same path that it did this last year. But what are other thoughts? Ethan?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think our decision not to make a decision shows that this doesn't belong here.
I think take it off. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. People
Agreed.
good? Yep, good. Pursue housing initiatives, particularly with help and reporting from the Housing Commission.
I'm just not sure.
Sorry, I couldn't see you.
Sorry.
Netta.
I think that, again, housing is an issue that's facing our community. I think having a goal in here that talks about us, having it at the forefront of our mind, putting this on there as a low priority makes sense to me. I know that there's a lot of questions in the manager's notes. I would love to, work with the team here to flesh it out exactly what they want them to do. Again, I know we have our values, we have guiding documents. I think as priorities too, we should have at least a single goal on here that says we are working towards finding more solutions to housing in our community.
Other thoughts? Kendall?
I would just change the pursue to explore. That way you are, as an opportunities arise situation. If something comes up, you're ready for it, and it's on your plan.
Ethan, Andy?
I agree with Kendall, we'll make it explore.
Explore, move it to low, keep it on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're bumping it up to low. It's at TBD right now.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes.
Cup's half full.
And the last item, select board team building event, I see this as an internal select board item that we can largely manage on our own.
I don't really know what this is, to be honest.
So was it September? I think it was September or October. We had a team building event for the select board to not talk about business, just to talk about relationships, how we interact as a board, expectations for communication, feedback loops, things like that, building trust, openness, as board members, individual members. Again, not to talk about business, just to really talk about how we work together as a team, because we are a team. So that's what this item was. There was interest in continuing to do that. That has happened more ad hoc, just direct feedback, and empowering each member to provide that feedback, give that feedback when folks feel it's necessary. If the board wants to make it a priority, I don't think that this is something that ultimately we should evaluate staff on. So I would say that it doesn't really belong on the manager's list of evaluated priorities. But if the select board wants to make it our own priority, that's what the question is.
I agree with what you got to in that statement.
Sorry, that was
This
really
isn't
long-winded.
something that we're bringing in a consultant for to teach us how to team build or something like that. Is
No,
that
we,
correct?
we did in September, brought in a facilitator, just to facilitate the conversation. Again, so no one was chairing the meeting or in a position of authority, so everyone was, you know, speaking just as a board member. Everybody had the same voice. But it doesn't have to be a facilitated session, no.
Okay. I don't really see it on this list. I see it as something that we should talk about
Okay. Ethan?
externally.
I was gonna say it's kind of like a party, but
I know, but I don't know that the taxpayers would appreciate that.
It's a non-business party.
I would just,
of course.
I would just offer up that, I'll say it. Sometimes the staff and management and administrative team might feel that a select board team building event is needed. So it should be noted someplace. And just note that. I mean, it isn't just necessarily the select board that would value a team building event. I think that the last one had value to everybody.
True.
So that's all.
True.
I don't know if I've really said that the right way or. But that's kind
I mean, when I read this, and if I'm pulling off base here, please, we can move on to something more important. But I saw this and I was like, oh, the equivalent in the United States government is like you have the caucuses go off and do their team building events. And they might talk about policy, but they mostly talk about how we can strategize and things like that. But it's paid for by, in my opinion, those campaign committees. It's not the taxpayer dollars that are actually getting a facilitator or things like that. And I don't know that when we present this to the public, we vote on this, and we put our stamp of approval on it, this could be construed as, you know, you want to go have a feast and, have a good time and different things. I don't think that that's what I want to be seen as. If we want to do something like that, I think it's upon us. And it could come from a suggestion from the town, like, you should go learn how to work as a team. But I don't think it's something that the town should fund for us to do.
Yeah. And see, I, as a leader professionally, I see this as regular, ongoing, something that should happen as a matter of course. We should be focusing on those relationships, how we interact together, making sure that folks feel open and honest with one another to provide and receive that feedback. So I could go either way, honestly, on this one. It's whatever folks feel, but, and it's not that it takes up a ton of bandwidth or time, at least from my perspective.
Depends on what you envision, really. If it's a matter of reaching out to a person we've used in the past to ask for facilitation work and scheduling a spot, it takes a little bit of prep time. If you're looking to do a full-blown thing with a lot of prep work and interviews and work from a facilitator ahead of time, it's more time consuming. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for.
Ethan?
I can't remember, so I was gonna kind of ask if anybody else remembered, but didn't we budget for $2,000 or $1,500?
You always have professional services
Professional
money.
services.
You can't remember how much.
The last
there.
outing was very inexpensive. It was a couple $100, right?
Something like that.
500.
Yeah.
Steamed eggs and bacon. We didn't get a feast. Okay.
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
Croissants were good.
So if anybody has strong feelings about moving this up or keeping it on the actual list, just say the word. If not, we'll just handle it ad hoc.
Take it off.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to the end of our list for discussion.
You do have the parking lot, which is the items that we suggested either coming off or putting on a parking lot. You can handle that however you want. Maybe the efficient way would be to just give anybody an opportunity to make a pitch for something that's on there.
Madam Chair, you'd said earlier in the meeting that you'd go to public comment. Is there anybody still online?
I do not see any hands, no.
Okay, just wanted to.
Yep,
make
no, thank you for that. Andy?
So I want to commend staff for saying no. I've been asking Greg to do that for years, and I think we should respect his opinion about the amount of work that he can do. And I agree with all of these items that they don't need to be explicitly listed. Many of them are implicit or covered by other items that we have in there, not necessarily explicitly named there, but I agree with all of these items on the list.
Their discussion. Ethan.
Oh, let's start with the wetlands assessment. I don't think that's really an option to put in the parking lot. You know, we hear over and over again about climate change and when do we start taking things seriously? Do we care about our forests? Do we care about our wetlands? Do we care about stormwater? Are we still looking at doing the public works, stormwater utility? All those things have been put down on a lower priority or removed from the work plan entirely. So those are things I wanted to bring to attention.
Andy, asking because you're more involved with CCRPC, do I recall something about a wetlands assessment at the CCRPC level? Or am I remembering?
Yes, you're right, but I don't recall the details of it.
So is this something that staff felt was duplicative of work that was being done at a greater level?
I can speak to it unless you have, generally, I don't know if you have more specifics from Catherine.
No, it was a new idea that was sort of re-invited from the town plan, and when I asked Catherine about her perspective on all of these things, I think she suggested the state maintains a database and to create our own with an eye towards whether we want to regulate more heavily wetlands or expand the definition of what constitutes a regulated wetland would be a pretty significant undertaking. So it was simply a capacity issue on her part. As with anything else, items can be rearranged should we want to create that capacity. I'll put in a quick definition. Parking lot doesn't mean no, it means not right now as well. We've approached it based on the capacity that we have. So certainly some of the stuff that we put on here is either move or remove, but a lot of the parking lot items are just things that we think have value, just not the capacity for, unless something else kind of comes off the list. ComDev would probably be leading that effort, whether it was hiring a consultant or working with the state. Don't know. They are quite busy, as you can probably imagine right now, with some mandatory things.
Does anyone else on the board feel about leaving this on the parking lot, pulling it off?
I'd just like to understand more of what you were thinking about this. It's just a very general wetlands assessment. It's pretty broad.
So I was the one that
Oh, was
brought
it
this
you?
up.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, he brought it up right now.
because I went through the town plan and saw found all of the items that said this is recommended.
Yeah.
And so I brought them up. Is it time to do it? If it's not, based on staff capacity, then it's still on the list. It's still in our town plan. I'm fine with having it in the parking lot. The town plan is an 8-year document, right? And so we don't have to do everything in there in the first year.
Yeah, my question was going to be, was that a time-bound goal in the town plan, or is it just throughout the 8-year cycle?
It did not specify, in the town plan didn't specify that it needed to be done immediately.
Okay. Ethan?
Do we need to figure out how to build 80-90 Upper Main Street in a year? I think we do. According to our list, it's very high priority. So I just, I don't know what you expect out of me. Positivity when every idea I brought is in the parking lot. I'm happy to go into detail about everything on these lists. I mean, we either listen to the constituents and we talk about the things that they bring to our attention, like forest, wetlands, flooding, Route 15 development that has direct impacts of wetlands that are directly impacting residents. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but these things were all removed. we want to spend money and build a new fire station and a library. I get that, but let's talk about some of these other things that aren't being acknowledged. What is our priority? Is our priority just to raise taxes and develop, or are we actually going to look at real life problems that the community is facing in an ever changing climate?
I think we can go back to things that we already discussed on our work plans, such as, improving the operating budget so it's more easily understandable, the capital budget, the potential contracting out of plowing and mowing, the forest management plans, water and sewer capital needs. We have the study and proposed solutions to minimize truck traffic on Sand Hill. There's a lot of items already on the list that came directly from input and feedback, but also being realistic as far as if we put it on the list and it's just going to sit there, what's the point of having it on this next year's list rather than noting that, yes, this is important, but we know that we have constraints and we can't do it. So we're still noting it in a parking lot is something that needs to and should be done. It's not a no, it's a yes, but not now.
Okay.
Is how I look at the parking lot.
So the consensus here that I'm feeling for everybody is that the most important thing that we have, or one of those 6 most important things that we have, is figuring out a way to develop 80 and 90 Upper Main Street. None of these other things take priority. That's the statement that's being made tonight, unless said otherwise.
I would push back on that. I think that if we can pull up the list of all the priorities and sort them by high to low, if you could. I think there's probably 12 high priorities, and the way this meeting started was saying that anything that's a high, yes, it might be alphabetically organized or stuff, but it's a plateau. There's high, and it doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want, we can move the.
There's only 6.
You know.
And 5 of them are prop and the manager.
No, we just put a bunch of other things
Yeah,
into
we
high.
The high priority?
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think we did.
We did move items.
Could we just count the highs real quick?
But anyhow, we have a set of high, we have a set of medium,
Right.
and we have a set of low.
And now we're hearing that we're too busy to add in anything else because of the highs. So now we're having a conversation about the highs. Is that not how this is working today? If so, just move on because you guys created that list. I don't know. I was asked to talk about the ones that I wanted to talk about. I'm talking about them, comparing them to ones that are committed to being high.
Is there, I'll ask the question again, is there value in moving something from the parking lot or the bike rack if we want to reduce impervious surfaces, moving it from the to-do list, the parking lot, moving it onto the actual work list for the following year, if we know out of the gate that we do not have the staff capacity or the understanding right now of what that completely entails?
The answer to that question is no, but the question that I asked is building 8090 Upper Main Street more important than the climate challenges that are facing our community that have yet to be worked on? That was the counter question.
That item isn't building it in a year. It's identifying potential funding.
Figuring out how to, yeah.
Potential funding mechanisms.
It's fine.
In order to present that to the voters for a full decision.
Message is clear. If it's not 8090 Upper Main Street, we don't have time for it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is saying that.
I think
Andy,
you said
go
quite the
ahead.
opposite tonight.
Yeah.
So Ethan, which items do you want us to move up?
I just named 3 of them.
We made forest management a high priority.
Which is how long is that? How long have you been working on that since
The-
we're on
well,
the select board? 9 years?
Regardless.
10 years? 11 years? So if it's a low priority, the point is when something is a low
So-
priority, it remains untouched year after year after year.
You didn't answer my question.
What would I like to move up? I'd like to move up the stormwater utility for one. I'd like to move up the agricultural study for supporting the Essex population because we're running out of farmland and we're running out of it awfully fast. I'd like to see your bike pedestrian fees. I think that could be a great alternative to aging infrastructure, adding bike paths, public sidewalks, maintenance in the winter. The list goes on that. And then the other two would be, where is it here? Let's make sure I say the wording right. Was the comprehensive wetlands assessment, which there was something brought to us. A memory is not clicking together for the information that was brought to us about that, about something that was mandatory to be completed or remapped by a certain year. I think it was 2028,
Control.
I believe.
I feel like that was the forest blocks that Kent is working
Could be
on.
that. Yep.
That's a component.
That wasn't with the wetlands.
I don't know if it
I
was.
think
or,
that,
I'm
I
just,
think there was
I
something
think
that
you're
Shannon worked on, that there was a yeah, we got a email from somebody saying that these are the updates to the
Classifications
floodplains and
of
so
the-
forth, and,
Right,
and
yeah, that's different. Yep.
Shannon, it was a work item for Shannon.
So that's done, completed.
The floodplain maps,
Yeah.
we don't need to take any action. Is the short answer.
Okay. Yeah, I think that your public water access could be combined to the other moving piece of the property that's over on 117 that's still yet to be, that it's definite. I think that there's exploration in a lot of these that are not inclusive of many things that were brought up. I mean, there's 25 things, so it's, if these are the most important things, I'm only one person too, so you can listen to me all night, or you can just say these are what we want, and the priority list is the priority list. That's perfectly fine. But I'd like to see some sort of effort to bring youth or younger local voices into the government. And I'm really disappointed to see that that's just pushed away, because without youth in this community, I don't know if anybody's been volunteering any time to coach youth sports or team building or bringing youth into work environments in a safe way, and just showing different skills, then I think that would be something that would value the town and our community as a whole. And then the last thing was the senior van. And I think that the senior van should still be looked at as an addition to an already overutilized service, let alone the correlation with Green Mountain Transit. Those are my most important things that didn't make the cut. And most of them say move or remove. There's only 2 of them in the parking lot.
Other thoughts on parking lot and the other items?
What if we just put all of these items in the parking lot? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of information in here where a lot of them have been moved to a department where they're gonna work on them anyway.
Like,
Instead of just removing them or moving them, just leave them all in the parking lot, and then as stuff comes up, you know it's there to work on. It does give a good list of things that need to be worked at.
yeah, I am curious. I just looked at the top of the page that I'm on and identify cost benefit of internal versus contracted operations, including mowing and plowing. That is on the list as far as the operational
probably-
budget and contracting, snowing and plowing.
Yeah.
So it may be that, there were duplicates. And
That wasn't on the list until I added it to the list. It was removed from the list, and then I added. You guys changed the wording to make that on the list.
right, because it
So it
was,
wasn't-
it was the intention that contracting included those things. So we just made it clearer to represent that it's really getting at the same thing. At least that's my interpretation of.
Yeah,
That
but
was
the
an
other
oversight, and I'm
topic
glad
was
you-
added,
that was an
though, it
oversight, and I'm
about
glad you caught it.
public-private partnerships. I mean, we can convolute this all we want, but the conversation, we can go watch the recording all together and look at the minutes from the last meeting. One was private-public partnerships because it was a goal, and then the other one was my goal to look at contracted services versus spending $67,000 on a couple ride-on mowers, but we're too busy to do forest management plans because we're mowing lawns with Parks and Rec. So I think that they're very different things, and they need to be respected as different things, and they weren't combined when we were brainstorming this. And I'm not knocking you for creating a list that you wanted to create. I'm just saying that the things that are separated on this, some of the wording that you may have put in the top may have tried to include them, but the things that you tried to include them with were not original ideas together. So the wording did not sometimes, in some cases, deliver the whole message from the opposite goal that was presented at the last meeting.
That's fair, and I'm glad you caught the mowing. The intent was to include the mowing, and the intent was also to bring it under the umbrella of spending more time on the budget overall. So
I get
and
that.
it's
just
the
words
whole
matter,
thing.
right?
I understand. Oh yeah, and the whole thing is a presentation to all of you. It was our shot at trying to streamline the conversation, and it's been good conversation, and there's been some good catches and changes. So.
But I'm good. I've said my piece, and I'm happy to move on. I think it's 9:20, and we have a long list ahead of us still.
So is everybody else okay with the Shannon?
I feel that there are a lot of things in here that have already been incorporated into other bullet points we talked about tonight, whether we physically moved them or if you read the notes, there's a bunch that have already been assigned to other departments. I agree with, in the essence of what Kendall said of this, a lot of these things that aren't already incorporated should be added as a parking lot at the bottom. So it's not a priority, it's just so we don't lose it, so we can always come back to it. And, but certain things such as, Andy I don't know what it was. Whenever this document originated and we had the brainstorming session, he literally had a great email, and then he brought notes and a physical copy of the town plan with sticky notes in it, in which he said, the second bullet point was, what's the Fire Department Bureau of Life, page 112 in the town plan? There's an answer here now. I don't think we need to carry that on to the parking lot. And I really appreciate, Andy, you always come to these meetings very prepared with, documents and resources and stuff, and I think this is very helpful. I mean, you jumped down a couple more. Historical sites was another thing he brought up as, should we be doing more for this? There wasn't a very clear, at least I didn't think there was a very clear, action of this as a plan and different things. There's now a hyperlink thing here that says there's a pretty good resource, different things. I think it's almost throwing it back at us saying, do we need to do stuff? And in my opinion would be no. I think this is not something we should continue to a parking lot. This is something we can remove. So I think that, there's a lot to digest here. But I think there's also, you go further on, and I think a lot of what Ethan's brought up about the van or, bringing youth voices into the government, those are things that are aspects that I don't think should be forgotten. And at the very least, I'd say we continue them on into a parking lot situation, if not putting as a low priority for some of those.
Well said.
Okay. So I'm hearing everything on the move, remove, and parking lot list. Anything that has not already been incorporated or asked and answered, like the historic site and the Bureau of Life, to just maintain that as a parking lot.
Unless there are specific things that people have, and this is purely just me. If there's specific things that, someone says, I want, we could number these out in a sheet. So I want number 19 brought on as a priority at XYZ level. Let's have that discussion now. But
Yes. Andy.
Have that discussion now.
yeah, if there's Andy, I really value your opinion. If there's things in here, you say let's move it over.
So I was gonna suggest that we separate out the goals from the parking lot, and we approve the goals separate from our parking lot, and take further time to look at the parking lot and these other items to weed out the ones that we think are already covered by the goals. And if we want to approve them later, we can, but I don't think we can give the manager a set of goals and a set of sub-goals. And measure him against those. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that, you know, given that it's almost 9:30 and we're going to take as much time to go through this list or more than we went through the first list, that we don't do that tonight. Because our goal is to establish goals. I guess, I don't know.
So what I'm
Unless we
hearing,
want to move something up, I guess that's where you end up with the.
what I'm hearing is the suggestion to move forward with the work items, the priority. Set the remove parking lot list aside for now, understanding that the work items typically become the manager goals, that we wouldn't, suggesting that even though we can add to the work item later, that we should be conscious of adding to the manager's goals, understanding that, you know, there is a process by which we do that, and I don't think that it's fair to be adding items throughout the year and then evaluating at the end of the year on a full year's worth of work, but continuing to creep that scope, if you will. Did I represent that correctly?
The other piece of that is, what do we do with this other list? You know, I'd be happy to go look through this list and give an opinion of which ones I think we can cross off that are covered by others. I think Greg has actually already done that. He just didn't physically remove them because he wanted to respect the fact that we put those in there. And if we want to have another discussion about it later, you know, what's in the parking lot, we can do that. If you want to, you know, you set the agenda. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but or Greg does. Sorry, and but that's just what I'm suggesting.
Yep.
Just to
Yeah.
separate the two.
Thoughts? Oh, Karen.
I was just gonna say, I think the idea behind the parking lot is potentially, when this conversation is to sort of put them aside, there's no action taken other than to make sure that they're listed somewhere. And then next year, when this conversation comes up again, it'll be a lot easier to pull out ideas that have already been stated but just didn't have the staff time or capacity to implement. So we can sort of start from that list, pull in what maybe wasn't able to be completed, and already start with something rather than a list of 47 that we have to go chase down. So that was the idea behind that suggestion.
Shannon.
I like where this is going. I do want to respect my other board members and make sure that there's nothing on here that they feel is top priority to move over the list before we approve that list. So, you know, Kendall, Andy, you know, Chairwoman, if there are things on here that you want, let's talk about those and move them over. Because we've combined a lot of the 24 lists. Probably it's, I don't know, 20 things now. I think there's room on there, based on what we've discussed tonight, that if we wanted to bring over something such as, you know, when I'm reading through this, you know, the statement about the youth voices sounds like a great value to push forward.
I think the thing to remember is, though, is while we may have combined items, we didn't specifically remove work from those
We removed a
items.
few.
We just organized in a better fashion.
I think we also
But I
defined.
think we streamlined.
Yeah.
Yes. But the body of work may still be the body of work combined.
I don't, there is a lot of work there.
Yeah.
But I do think we spent time putting this together. If
Yep.
there's things on here
Yep.
people want,
No,
let's have that
I
conversation.
agree. So another call for, if there are items that folks feel strongly about moving to the actual work list, let's have that conversation. I know Ethan had mentioned 3. I wrote down 3, but then through conversation, I think there were 2 more. But if anyone wants to speak to those, now is the time.
I've heard
Right.
youth voices a couple times. I guess if that's one you're discussing anymore, I'd just be curious to hear what you all might have in mind. It's recommended as a remove because we do that as best we can. Some of the notes that are in there, we've worked with student government to participate in town meeting and the town meeting showcase. The scouts participate in that. We've got relationships with the tech center for internships that sort of ebbs and flows over the years, but we have an intern right now. We've had interns at Public Works before. We've got relationships with high school, college students, hiring them as seasonal staff. Our handbook is for the boards and committees is looking at creating a minimum age of, I believe it's 16 for board members. So we have taken steps and we can always do more, but curious to hear what your thoughts might be as to what else we could do and should do if you wanted to make that an actual priority in the coming year.
Ethan?
Just an example, but communities around us are having anywhere between 1 and 2 and a couple more than 2 young community members sit at the table and participate in local governance, understanding that there's no legally binding action taken. They're just a part of the process and shaping, learning, expanding the knowledge and experience of the youth in those communities. For example.
Thoughts?
I mean, I just think that the list, that there shouldn't be a move and remove, that we should just have all these in a parking lot. Because as the year goes on, you're gonna find out that something like the utility's gonna pop up as a requirement that we have to look at. If the state decides they wanna do a public statewide stormwater utility, all of a sudden that's gonna come out of the parking lot.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
and
and he does a really good job of not necessarily saying these things have disappeared, they've just been moved. That somebody else is working on it, it's just not really part of the board's work plan, so.
Yep. So I'll connect that with Andy's recommendation that we walk through that separately to identify just what you said, what's still applicable, what was combined, what questions were asked, answered that can be, done, and then have the remainder be the parking lot items.
Yes, I'm just not sure that a lot of the things that are in here are gonna be moved very easily. There are a couple things that are very clear, but there might be some discussion on which ones stay and which ones go.
Yep.
Great.
Okay. Are we ready to move on, or does the board still want to have more discussion on the parking lot and the priorities? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to business item.
Whoa. We'll
What?
move on to business item. We have special work projects for town manager. Item number 1. Our grant we signed up for.
Those are
Those
items.
are non-debatable, none to talk about. That's just informational. So, can we speak on them if they're just informational? The annual work plan for the town manager's office, special projects, future year 26. We're skipping that.
Greg, do you want to?
I mean,
Give
which-
it
which-
the first
on
one's
that,
important to
or-
talk
Which,
about.
I'm sorry, which item?
This
The
is
annual work
third
plan for
spreadsheet.
the
I think this
town
was
manager
included as a way,
office.
is a complement
that,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
proposed work plan, that this is how the manager's office work plan will need to be amended. Also, we learned of Travis's departure during this time, so the loss of a key member also added some shifts. So it's intended as a complement to that. It's up to the chair how you want to debate or discuss it.
I think it's important public knowledge.
Is there discussion on the town manager's office special projects for FY26? Andy?
I'm happy with it.
Okay. Shannon, Kendall?
I didn't have any changes to it. I
Okay.
thought it was more of an FYI.
Yeah. Any specific questions I could ask later?
Okay. Ethan?
I have a specific question about the mandatory of the Upper Main Street project. Why is that mandatory if we can remove ourselves from it without being on the hook for $1.3 million?
So at this point, the agenda item is discussion about prioritization of select board work items for fiscal 26.
So we want to hide it. Okay.
No, we're not hiding it. We have discussed 8090 Upper Main
Okay.
Street on multiple occasions, multiple times during this meeting.
This.
So the town manager sets the work plan for his own office, for his own staff. If you have feedback on that, I would suggest that you reach out directly to him to have that conversation. We are in control of the select board work items, and that's what we're here to discuss tonight. So with that,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Why is this included in the packet then?
For
We can't
informational
discuss
reasons,
that?
only to understand time and capacity constraints within that department, just as we see the other departmental work plans to inform our decisions, to understand what's going on. So with that, we're going to move past discussion and to consider approval of the select board work items for fiscal year 2026. Andy?
I make a motion that the select board approve the fiscal year 2026 work plan with assigned priority levels for each work item as amended this evening.
Thank you. Andy, is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Shannon. Is there any final discussion?
Yeah, I think it's been a very eye-opening day for the public, and I really hope people are listening to the meeting.
Is there any public comment on the approval of the work items for fiscal year 26? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Business item 6D, sorry, I crossed out the C and it looked like an E and I got confused for a minute. Discussion and potential action about goals for town manager in fiscal year 2026. As we talked about earlier this evening, historically, we have taken the select board work items and those have become the goals for our town manager that we evaluate the town manager on in the spring. I guess I'll just get the consensus of the board. Is anyone ready to take action on this, or should we move this into executive session? Greg, do you have
I
input
would just
on
say,
that?
yeah, the executive session is more if you have specific comments about my performance at this point or going forward, that would be appropriate for executive session. If we're just talking about setting goals and approving goals, I think that's fine to have that discussion in public session.
Okay. What's the board's will? Shannon?
Just a question. I know we talked about coming back to that subset. Do we need to wait? And is there a time limit on when we need to set these goals for you, or I'm just curious what we're working with here?
Technically, it's before the end of the prior fiscal year, but last year we extended that for, I had some personal stuff going on. I was on leave, and this year, stuff happened, so I'm fine with it being now. If you want to extend it, I am okay going to like August, the first meeting in August, but I wouldn't want to go beyond that because we are starting to get into the fiscal 26 work.
Sure. No, I personally feel like we've had a very healthy conversation tonight. We've gotten through a lot of things. I think that we've come to a good decision on that parking lot. I do look forward to that, revisions and working that further. But I just wanted, I put it to the board, do we feel comfortable, even though we're going to come back and possibly set a few additional goals moving forward tonight?
Ethan?
If we approve anything tonight, we're not adding anything until next year. Just so you fully understand that. There's no coming back to the parking lot. Parking lot's sitting there until next year. Just so you know. I don't want you to, I don't want you to be misleaded.
No, we can update the work plan, but right now we're talking about the
Goals.
manager goals. So while, yes, we can add to the work
Yeah.
plan, we would just want to be conscious of moving the goalposts into the
Sure.
evaluation year because we want to be a fair board to our manager and give him clear expectations and not change those.
Right, right. We can change the work plan, but it
Okay.
may be inappropriate to change the goals after the evaluation period
Thank
has
you for that
started.
clarification.
Yeah. Which is what you said. I'm sorry. I
That's
just
okay.
repeated.
That's okay. Sometimes you have to say things multiple times. That's fine.
I would like to make the motion that the select board set the manager's goals for FY26 to be coincident with the select board work plan as approved this evening.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kendall. Is there discussion? Is there any public comment on that approach? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Consider approval to continue sharing police costs with the city of Essex Junction on a per capita basis. Greg, I don't know what you would like to share in open session. I do know that there was a memo with some details.
Yeah, basically, what the memo says, it just calls out some language from the shared police agreement with Essex Junction that on or about the second anniversary of the effective date, the two parties shall meet to review the agreement, including whether the allocation of cost on a per capita basis remains an appropriate metric. We have looked into this. Staff does recommend sticking with that metric going forward, and I believe it's worth taking action just to formalize that we have looked at it and you're comfortable if you are.
Yep. Does anyone want to discuss this in executive? If not, I would entertain a motion. Andy?
Make the motion that the select board approve the allocation of costs on a per capita basis under the police services agreement that the town has with the city of Essex Junction.
Andy, is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Shannon. Is there any public comment on this one before we call for a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I did have a comment, but that's all right.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I was confused. Wasn't there discussion from him?
Kendall, are you
I
good?
approve it. Yeah, my question was not necessarily about the contract,
Okay,
so I'm good. Aye.
okay.
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Oppose, nay?
Yeah.
Nay?
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Consider approval to execute contract with Essex Police Employees Association Lodge, number 404, or excuse me, 004. Would folks like to go into executive session to discuss this item?
Yes.
Okay, I will skip over that then. The other item, discuss pending or probable civil litigation. I'm assuming that's going to happen in executive. Which brings us to the reading file, board member comments, meeting schedule.
Good start on the capital policy, kind of. And again, I gotta give kudos to Dan.
Yeah.
He is knocking it out of the ballpark. The interest numbers are fantastic, so. Good job to the staff.
Agreed.
Karen and Dan.
I just want to publicly acknowledge the title changes and promotions. I congratulate the staff. Appreciate the great work.
Agreed. Anything else for the reading file? I assume that we do have business. We may have business when we come back from executive, but if anybody has those motions ready, Andy.
I move that the select board make the specific finding that premature general public knowledge of the town's position concerning an ongoing contract negotiations and labor relations agreements with employees would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Andy?
I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss contracts and labor relations agreements with employees pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1A and 1 VSA 313A1B to include the town manager, deputy manager, and HR director.
He's upstairs.
Thank
He's
you,
upstairs.
Andy. Thank you, Shannon. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Shannon?
I move that the select board make the specific finding that general public knowledge or pending of probable civil litigation to which the public body is or may be party would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Thank you, Shannon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Andy. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Shannon?
I move that the select board enter an executive session to discuss pending or probable civil litigation to which the public body is or may be a party pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1E to include the town manager and deputy manager.
Thank you, Shannon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Andy. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. We are now in executive session.